A fancy boat that was slowly sinking, and I was left here in a difficult situation by my wife and her two friends. Though I was not in charge of the boat, I thought that considering how heartbroken I was, perhaps going down with it made sense. As I thought about what to do next, my life flashed before my eyes. I tried to find any reason to keep going and survive this mess. My first tough relationship that started my feelings of being a failure was with Susan. At 18, I had just finished high school and went on a blind date with her. She had graduated from another school, so I knew nothing about her until we met through friends. It was a whirlwind romance. For 6 weeks, I was incredibly happy and in love with this lovely girl. She said she felt the same way, and I even started saving for a ring. One summer Saturday night, I took Susan to a nice restaurant to celebrate our 6-week anniversary. It might sound silly, but we were just kids then. We weren't in formal wear, but we were dressed nicely for our date. Halfway through our meal, a handsome young man in a tuxedo suddenly appeared. I had no idea who he was, but he dropped to one knee beside her and proposed with a dozen red roses. To my shock, ignoring me completely, she accepted. I was stunned and stepped outside to give them some time. I found out later that he was her ex-boyfriend, someone I knew nothing about. They left happily, and I was left with the bill. It felt like I was an extra in a romantic movie where the main actress starts dating someone new to move on, only to realize later she was meant to be with the main actor. I felt like I deserved some recognition for my part in this story. After dealing with my hurt from Susan's sudden departure, a few weeks later, I finally worked up the courage to ask Claudia out. We got along from the start. She was best friends with my cousin Bethany, and I had met her a few times before. We dated all summer until it was time for college. I was planning to study chemical engineering while she was focused on art appreciation. Our schools were not too far apart, about 30 minutes away in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Durham, North Carolina, so we tried to meet up whenever we could. On one of our dates, Claudia told me she had made a friend in her art class who was a talented photographer. He had an important photography project that would count a lot towards his grade that semester. He wanted her to be his model for artistic photos. She was excited about the chance to share images of herself as she truly was. Even though I didn't agree, she assured me everything was professional and that the project would be respectful. She mentioned she had already said yes to being his model. Claudia and I had a shared Google Drive, which her photographer friend didn't know about. He uploaded all his photos to that drive for her to see. Claudia forgot that I had the login details. When I looked at the images, I was shocked at how inappropriate some of them were. I had no idea that it was common for photographers to get too close with their models. Our relationship ended shortly after that. My cousin apologized for her friend's behavior. I felt like a fool. Wanting to try dating again, I joined a matchmaking site called Hinge. I met Keegan, who was full of energy. She probably used an old photo because the woman who met me at the restaurant looked different from her profile picture. Our date went well, and Keegan was easy to talk to. A week later, when we became close, I noticed she seemed more experienced than I was, but I didn't mention it. I wanted to keep our relationship smooth. She always met me at our dates. 2 months later, I insisted on picking her up for our next date, and she reluctantly agreed. When I arrived, she hurried out of her house and jumped into my car. I wondered why she was in such a rush and asked her what was wrong. That was when she revealed she was still living with her husband, who she said was separated, but not yet divorced. I saw a large man glaring at me from her house, and I had no idea about their situation. A few weeks later, new information came to light. My friends knew that Keegan had been seeing other guys behind my back. I only found out because a true friend pressured her into admitting it. When she finally told me the truth, it felt very insincere. "It's not a big deal, Steve," she said quickly. "Everyone else thinks it's fine." Naturally, I broke up with her, which caused a rift with many of my friends. The hardest part was finding her list of people she had been with. There were several names on it, including some I thought of as friends. I have a pretty good idea why her husband wanted to leave her. At least I managed to avoid that situation and keep my distance from drama. At this point, I was in my second year of college, working on my degree in chemical engineering. I decided to take a break from dating for the rest of the school year to focus on my studies. Given my poor dating history, none of my close friends questioned my choice to stay single. Soon after the next school year started, I met Cheryl. We got along very well and enjoyed each other's company. I fell for her quickly. We decided to change roommates so we could live together in our dorms. We were a happy couple for about 9 months until I noticed that Cheryl often kept her phone on silent or ignored calls from her friend, Elise. One day I wrote down the number and called it a couple of days later. It turned out to be her other boyfriend, who she had not broken up with before starting college. Neither of us knew about the other, and she had been seeing him when she went home on weekends. After a big argument, I decided to break up with her. A week later, her mom called and told me that sometimes you have to accept things as they are, and insisted that I owe Cheryl an apology for ending things. To me, that made it clear she had learned from her mother. At that point, I decided to stay away from relationships. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious happened because I was guarded. I felt it was best to concentrate on my studies in chemical engineering at NC State University. After earning my bachelor's degree, I was now working towards my master's. I had gone out with several sorority girls I met at fraternity parties. It was at one of these parties that Chet, a more carefree member of my fraternity, came up to me. "Hey, Steve, I need a favor. Do this for me, and I'll owe you one." "No thanks, Chet. I don't need any favors from you. Handle your own issues." "Okay, fine, but don't do it for me. Do it for that nice girl standing by the punch bowl." I looked to see who he was talking about. "The girl in the green top?" "Yeah, that's her. Her name's Kirsty Salinas. She came with her sorority sister, Wanda Howe, who's wearing black beside her. I've been trying to win over Wanda for a while, and she agreed to spend time with me tonight if you promise to take Kirsty back to her dorm safely. She's not comfortable with anyone else." "Why would a girl I don't know trust me?" "I'm not sure, Steve. She says it's part of some sorority network. They have a list of good guys, and I'm not on it, but you are. If the situation were reversed, I'd help you out. All Wanda wants is for you to promise that Kirsty will get back to her dorm safely tonight." They came together, and Wanda won't go anywhere without making sure her sorority sister is taken care of first. To be honest, I liked Kirsty more than Wanda. Even though she was Hispanic, that didn't matter to me. She had a friendly, approachable look, while Wanda was more about her appearance. I hadn't found a date for the night, so I figured I had nothing to lose. I didn't realize how wrong I was. "Okay, Chet, I'll watch over her for Wanda, but like you said, you owe me for this." "Thanks, Steve, but you need to tell Wanda yourself that you'll get Kirsty back safely. She won't believe me. She wants to hear it straight from you." I laughed at his situation. "All right, introduce me and I'll take care of her tonight." Wanda was nice, but Kirsty was truly charming. Once Chet and Wanda left, Kirsty stayed close to me until we left the party. We danced together, but only to lively songs. I couldn't quite figure her out, and that intrigued me. She never gave off any strong signals, but she seemed like someone who could be fun if the setting was right. True to my nature, I was the perfect gentleman. We chatted as we took the 30-minute walk to her dorm. "Sorry to ask this, Kirsty, but have people ever said you look like the actress Melissa Rauch who played Bernadette on The Big Bang Theory?" She laughed at my question and replied, "Funny you mention her. Yes, many people say we have similar faces, but there's a big difference apart from my being Hispanic. She's 4 feet, 11 inches tall, while I'm a whole 5 feet." "I see what you mean," I laughed. "She's much shorter than you. As a guy, I know how much difference an inch can make." We both chuckled at my comment. "So, what do you study here when you're not getting recognized?" I asked playfully. "Thanks for asking, Steve. I have a bachelor's degree in nursing and I'm working on my master's." "What a coincidence." "What? Are you also in nursing?" she joked. "Not that nursing isn't great, but like you, I have my bachelor's in chemical engineering and I'm working on my master's too. It's a small world." "Let's see just how small it is. I grew up in Winston-Salem here in North Carolina." "Are you from here or somewhere else?" she asked. "The world keeps getting smaller, Kirsty. I'm from Greensboro, so our hometowns are less than 30 miles apart." We both enjoyed the coincidence. There was something sweet and innocent about her. After she gave me a light kiss on the cheek for seeing her to her room, I decided to ask for her number. Even though she thought about it, she gave it to me like it was something very special. Kirsty Salinas was a mystery to me. She was busy and didn't go out with me for 2 weeks. Every moment spent with her felt bright and exciting. She was a pleasure to be around and had a way of putting me at ease. I had read a self-help book that said, "Don't assume someone won't let you down, but trust that you can handle it if they do." Despite my efforts to guard my heart, the petite girl broke down the walls I had built. It took me 2 months to convince her to grow close to me, and when I did, I found out she was the rarest kind of person, someone who had never had that kind of relationship before. I was surprised. She was a true gem, but I had decided to avoid saying the L word for my own peace of mind, hoping she would say it first. But in the end, I lost that little game. I couldn't hold back. From that first gentle kiss on the cheek, I couldn't focus on anyone but her. I shared with her how I had felt let down by love in the past. I opened up about the times when my feelings had been hurt. After I finally told her how I felt, when she replied with the same words, I saw the true depth of her feelings, promising me loyalty and trust, vowing she would never hurt me like others had. I felt like I had fallen from a lucky tree and hit every branch on the way down. Sure, I was being a little foolish, but I did it anyway. I took the plunge. I asked her to marry me during the summer before our last year of college. Our families welcomed us both warmly, and we felt as if we were already part of each other's families. The wedding was just a formality. Her parents went all out for a grand church ceremony after we both earned our master's degrees. Kirsty Salinas became Kirsty Walters. My parents covered our week-long honeymoon in Maui, Hawaii. It was perfect. We were completely united. Kirsty, are you really okay with the plans we've talked about? Absolutely, my love. I'm so proud of you for getting the pharmaceutical project manager job with Stargen in Tampa, Florida. Your master's degree is already showing its worth through your starting salary. Well, Stargen is a big company that creates and sells medicines for many health issues like diabetes, cancer, and Alzheimer's. They've been around since 1953 and are based in Boston. As I mentioned, they have a strong presence in Florida with large research and development facilities in Tampa. What I want to know is if you are all right with moving from your home in North Carolina to Florida. Sweetheart, as I've said many times, I will always be by your side. No matter where you go, I'll support you and be there with you. I have sent out job applications to several hospitals around Tampa. In today's health services industry, I feel confident that I'll find a good job with my master's degree in nursing. I have an interview in 2 weeks for a charge nurse position overseeing the nurses in the newborn nursery and PICU at St. Joseph's Children's Hospital in Tampa. If I get that job, our workplaces will only be 6 miles apart. Once I have a job there, we can start looking for a perfect place to live. It seemed like luck was on our side when Kirsty did great in her interview and got hired at St. Joseph's with a good starting salary of $86,706 a year. I couldn't have been prouder of her. She adapted to her new job very well. Everyone liked her, and more importantly, they respected her. Though she is small, she is very capable. She led her team effectively but treated everyone with kindness, just as she wanted to be treated. I was also pleased with my salary of $152,000 a year. Together, we made over $238,000, which allowed us to live comfortably. We bought a 4-bedroom home located conveniently between our workplaces. Our dreams were becoming a reality. We decided to start a family early while we still had the energy to care for little ones. We waited a year after getting married before trying. 6 months later, Kirsty got pregnant with our first child. 9 months later, we welcomed our lovely daughter, Amelia. 18 months after Amelia, our son Eric joined us. Unless we changed our minds, 2 children felt like enough for us. To help Kirsty after each birth, our mothers came to stay with us for 2 weeks. We were very lucky that St. Joseph's had childcare for employees and families of patients, which was a great support for us. Kirsty could bring the children to work and take them home afterward. If she ever had to work late, I would pick them up on my way home, allowing her to handle any urgent matters. When Amelia started kindergarten, we faced a decision. We wanted her routine to be stable, without it changing too much based on our work schedules. So, we chose to hire a nanny who could also help with housekeeping and cooking. This way, Amelia would have a consistent caregiver, and the same would go for Eric when he was old enough for school. The challenge was finding someone we could trust with our home and our most precious treasures, our children. We interviewed many applicants, but Kirsty wanted the final say, trusting her instincts as a mother to guide us. I agreed with her completely. One of the nurses who worked with Kirsty at the hospital was Gloria Sanchez. Gloria was a single mother with 6 children. Her husband had left her 3 years ago for someone younger and went back to Mexico to avoid helping with the kids. No other men wanted to date a woman with 6 children. Gloria worked as a nurse and earned a decent wage, but still had a hard time making enough money every month. She did her best for her family. Her daughter, Jenna, had just turned 18 and finished high school, but was unsure about her future. Gloria couldn't afford college for her, and Jenna's grades were not high enough for scholarships. Jenna helped take care of her younger siblings and had learned to cook at an early age. She was very good at keeping the house clean. Gloria asked Kirsty if she would interview Jenna. Kirsty spoke highly of Jenna, saying she was skilled, always on time, and dependable. Jenna had a bright personality that reminded me of Kirsty. My wife invited her to our home on Saturday for a paid trial to see how she would fit in with Amelia and Eric. She asked Jenna to act normally while we watched from a distance. The kids instantly liked her, and she made the day enjoyable for them. While the kids napped, Jenna quickly cleaned the bathrooms to perfection. She also checked our fridge and pantry to see what we had to cook with. For dinner, she prepared a fantastic meal all on her own. Kirsty and I agreed that Jenna was the best candidate we had met so far. Kirsty wanted to pay her 20% more than she asked to show our appreciation and help Gloria support her family. We were on the same page. So 18-year-old Jenna Sanchez became our part-time nanny, housekeeper, and cook. We gave her a key and asked her to come to our home every weekday at noon to tidy up and be there when the children got home from school. Then, she would prepare dinner and could leave when either of us got back from work. We invited her to join us for dinner whenever she wanted, and she often did. Amelia and Eric grew to love Jenna just as much as we did. Jenna was 10 years younger than us, but acted with the wisdom of an adult. She was also taller than Kirsty, but Kirsty was never bothered by that. One more great advantage of having Jenna was that she could babysit. If we needed to go to a work event or have a date night, Jenna was the first person we asked. She always excitedly took the chance to be with the kids and earn some extra money. I don't think she ever said no. Kirsty and I felt Jenna was worth every dollar we paid her. Though Jenna reminded me of a young version of a famous actress, I always thought of her as family and treated her that way. We needed her help more than she needed us, and I would never do anything to risk our arrangement. Often, when Kirsty worked late, she would come home to find Jenna watching a family movie with us. Kirsty never worried about Jenna being there. The kids loved spending time with her. Once Eric turned 1, we started paying Jenna to look after the kids on summer weekends, while Kirsty and I took scuba diving lessons. We became certified divers and learned to appreciate the ocean in new ways. We joined other divers on boats near Madeira Beach and traveled to Central Florida for cave diving training at Ginny Springs. This training helped us become more self-sufficient as divers and better prepared for any challenges we might face underwater. I received 5 weeks of vacation each year while Kirsty only got 3. We took full advantage of our time off, bringing Jenna with us for a week at a time. She would play with the kids in the kiddie pool while Kirsty and I dove at different spots along the Florida coast, including the Keys, where we admired the beautiful sights and sea life. Young boys would approach Jenna during our vacations, but she only engaged in polite conversation with them. She was firmly part of our family, and we were very protective of her. 7 years passed, and life in the Walters household was good. Amelia was now 9.5, and Eric had just celebrated his 8th birthday. Kirsty and I had both turned 36 and were very much in love. Our work schedules could be challenging at times, but Jenna always came through for us. 4 years ago, she moved in with us full-time, which felt like a natural step. Jenna occasionally went on dates and sometimes brought her dates home, but she never seemed to develop any strong relationships. We even tried to set her up with some good young men we knew, but nothing clicked for her. We asked her if she was interested in women, but she quickly said no. Jenna took the kids to their various activities and practices. Being bilingual, she taught them enough Spanish to understand basic conversations, even if they couldn't speak it fluently. Steve, I met the most interesting woman a few weeks ago, Laureen Belvedere. She helps out in the nursery to care for the babies and comfort them. She doesn't have children of her own and says that volunteering helps fulfill her nurturing side. She has been volunteering for years at Tampa General Hospital, but they are renovating, so they are sending most of their birthing cases to us for now. Laureen says she just followed the babies. Is there a reason she doesn't have kids of her own? Is she young and single? Oh, she's married, happily married, and she's the same age as us. Asking someone about their ability to have children is a sensitive topic and not something you bring up casually. Lorene Belvedere, you say? That's an interesting name. If she has been volunteering for so long, her husband must be doing well financially. You know, Kirsty, if you wanted to, you could stop working like Lorene. We would manage just fine on my salary alone. I have received good pay raises over the years and nice bonuses when we finish projects on time. It's very generous of you to say I could relax, but I really enjoy my job too much. There's no way I could give it up, at least not anytime soon. Besides, Jenna takes care of the kids, house chores, and cooking. I rarely have to do much around here except maybe pick up your clothes off the floor. If she were to leave us one day, I would be happy for her because we care about her, but our lives would change a lot. I agree. Jenna will make someone very happy one day. I would be glad for her, but sad for us at the same time. I don't know what we would do without her. I feel the same. Anyway, back to Lorene. We have been having lunch together at the hospital cafeteria every day for the past couple of weeks. I feel a strong connection to her. She's lovely and fun to be with. She invited you and me to meet her and her husband, Christopher, this Saturday night at the Fly Bar in Lafayette Arcade, their treat. She says it's one of the best bars in Tampa with a nice atmosphere. There will be a DJ playing music. It's on Kennedy Boulevard. I know that place. We've talked about going there, but never did. I'm up for it as long as Jenna doesn't have any plans that night. I've already asked her, so I'll tell Lorene tomorrow that we're in. I can't wait for you to meet her. If Christopher is half as outgoing as she is, it should be a fun night. As it turned out, the four of us got along very well. Christopher was entertaining while also being a true gentleman. Lorene looked beautiful, dressed very elegantly, and her confidence made her stand out to everyone in the room. Christopher was about 6'2" tall compared to my 5'9", but it was hard to tell much about his build under his clothes. He seemed solid, not overweight. His face looked a lot like a clean-shaven Ryan Reynolds, who is Kirsty's favorite actor. Lorene was so beautiful that she could be called a trophy wife. We danced the night away to the DJ's music, but stayed with our own wives out of respect. I noticed that Kirsty had just as hard a time not staring at the handsome Christopher as I did avoiding looking at the stunning Lorene. We had such a good time that the four of us decided to meet again the next Saturday night, and we would pay this time. For our second outing, we met them at our favorite nightclub. As we talked, we learned a lot about each other and discovered many shared interests. For instance, they were also passionate scuba divers and even had their own underwater scooters to help them dive. I shared my job openly, but Christopher was a bit secretive, only mentioning that he managed investments. After nearly 3 months of outings, we insisted on picking them up on Friday night to save them the cost of an Uber. They agreed reluctantly. Kirsty and I were surprised, to say the least. Their address led us to a luxurious mansion that I guessed was worth tens of millions. The ride to the restaurant was mostly quiet. We had no idea we were becoming friends with a powerful financial couple. As we sat down at the table, Lorene started the conversation. Okay, let's get things started before it gets uncomfortable. Everything you've learned about Christopher and me is true. We kept our financial situation hidden for a couple of reasons. First, we wanted to be friends because of who we are, not what we have. Second, we didn't want it to affect our friendship, and it seems that it might be doing just that now. Have we wasted our time with you two? Are we not worthy of your friendship because of how much money we have? We really enjoy being friends with you. Please don't let money come between us. It has ruined past friendships for us. Kirsty and I exchanged glances, and I replied, Lorene, you're right. Getting to know you both has been a wonderful experience. We've built a friendship based on shared interests and excitement for life, without money being a factor. You have never shown off your wealth or acted superior. I truly respect you both for that. It shows your character and calmness. Kirsty and I will never make it an issue if you don't. Is it okay to ask how you achieved your success? Or is that too personal? Christopher joined in. Steve, Lorene and I don't want any secrets between us. I'm glad to share how we ended up in our current situation and invite both of you to ask any questions you might have now or later. We want to be friendly and keep the easygoing relationship we've started. Can we agree on that from the beginning? Yes, of course, Christopher. Sorry if we seemed inexperienced when meeting someone like you. Kirsty and I will try our best to remember that you two are special friends, no matter your wealth. We're happy to hear that, right, honey? Lorene nodded in agreement. Christopher continued. As you know, Laureen is 36, the same age as you both. I'm a bit younger at 28. During my second year in college, I was really into computers and coding. I loved creating useful computer programs and even earned some money doing it. That summer, I went to a coding camp where I learned a lot about coding. The teachers there were very skilled and opened my eyes to new ideas. I used what I learned to create computer games. I started tinkering with graphics and even sold some characters I came up with to popular game companies. My creations got a lot of interest and people wanted more. That's when I realized I could make my own game from scratch and earn more from that than from just selling smaller pieces. Have you ever heard of a game called Death Dragons of Elsinore? Yes, I never played it, but many of my friends were really into it, even at the expense of their schoolwork. I tried to keep my focus on my studies. Good choice, Steve. How about another game called Invasion of North America? I have heard of it. I played a few levels of it with my friends one summer. Did you make those games? I did work hard to create both of those well-known games. I sold Death Dragons of Elsinore for less than it was worth, but it still made a lot of money for the company. I made sure to get a fair price for Invasion. Together, those games earned me nearly $100 million. I've helped develop over 20 other projects since then, bringing our total to $400 million. I still enjoy coding, but only for fun now. Only a few close friends know what you and Kirsty now know about Laureen and me. We don't like to show off or flaunt our money. We feel lucky to be in our position and want honest friendships just like anyone else. We don't like how money can change people. You might wonder why we look for friends like you. We found that many wealthy people can be stuck up and judgmental, and we really don't like that kind of attitude. We learned that money can sometimes bring out the worst in people. A lot of my time has been spent dealing with people who just want to take advantage of others. Laureen believes you both are different, and after getting to know you, I do too. Kirsty and I think you are wonderful. We have really enjoyed spending time with you over the last few months. We didn't realize your wealth until recently, but it makes us happy to see that our friendship is based on who we are as people, not on money. We are grateful to be part of your lives, and you should know by now that we take care of ourselves. We appreciate you letting us do that. Friendship is what truly matters, and we promise not to focus on wealth. Hearing that means a lot to us, Steve. I hope money never gets in the way of our friendship. Laureen always talks about you two after we meet, and I know how selective she is about friends. Now that we've cleared the air, maybe we can go on more adventures together. We've planned to visit the Tampa Zooquarium after we leave here. Jenna, our nanny, will meet us there with our kids. They love the Zooquarium. That sounds fun, Steve. We can't wait to meet your children, but I mean adventure in a different way. We have a sailboat that we really enjoy. Laureen and I usually spend 3 months sailing and then 3 months at home. When we're not at sea, she volunteers at the hospital while I work out or play golf. That's where Laureen met your wife, which is how our friendship started. I'll admit I was a bit unsure at first because we've had some tough times connecting with others, but you two have really won us over. After we left the restaurant, we headed to the zoo and then the aquarium. Our kids were quickly drawn to your warm personalities. Laureen especially seemed to enjoy their company. It was delightful to see all 4 of us know so much about the sea creatures on display. That's when Christopher spoke up. I don't know about you guys, but if I ever see any of the sharks we find here in the aquarium while we're diving, except for the nurse shark, which is safe, I'm heading straight for the boat. Laureen and I have watched too many Shark Week episodes and heard scary stories from other divers about their experiences, so we won't take any chances. I really suggest you both do the same if you see one. Kirsty and I respect all the animals we meet in the ocean, and we understand your worries. Tomorrow, Laureen and I would like to invite you both to the West Shore Yacht Club Marina. It's a private community here in Tampa where we keep our sailboat. Here's a card with the address. Let's meet at the entrance at about 10 a.m. Don't forget your swimsuits. Kirsty and I were surprised to get such an invitation to a private marina. Thank you. We'll be there. Then we said goodnight. On Saturday morning, they took us to the marina where we parked near their boat. We were both amazed. I whistled in surprise at the large boat docked before us. Is this yours, Christopher? Yes, it is. We named her Sea Chariot. I'm impressed. Tell us more about her. There's a well-known British boat builder called Oyster. This is one of their ocean-going sailboats. She's about 90 feet long, an Oyster Model 885 GT. She has a strong fiberglass hull and features a special keel that's less likely to break from hitting something underwater. Boats with a longer keel are usually steadier in rough waters. She also has a rudder that is less likely to be damaged from an accident, as the keel takes the hit. A self-steering system helps Laureen and me relax while sailing and is really useful in emergencies, like if we get sick. Inside, there's a master bedroom and 3 good-sized guest rooms below deck. The deck and wooden parts are made of teak. The engine has a powerful Cummins diesel. I'm amazed. I've never seen anything like this before, Christopher. Now I understand why you and your wife enjoy sailing so much. Let's go on board and check out the inside. Kirsty and I were surprised by how spacious it was inside. The layout felt open and luxurious, with a lot of room to move around. Laureen talked about everything that women like, especially the nice features of the boat. Christopher then showed me a door in the kitchen that led to the engine room. It was surprisingly big and clean enough to eat off the floor. While he explained how everything worked, I asked how the diesel engine stayed cool since it was below deck. He told me that a pipe carried seawater through a system that helped cool the engine without the 2 liquids touching each other. Interesting, I said. Does the salty seawater cause any issues in the pipes? It can, he answered. But I keep everything well maintained. I use special brushes to clean out the pipes from the outside, removing any blockages. I also keep the engine room pressurized during cleaning so seawater doesn't get in. If that big valve was open and the engine room wasn't pressurized, we could have a big mess. Wow, there's a lot to remember. I was here while the boat was being built, so I know every part. It all feels natural to me now, he explained. I must say, Christopher, this boat looks perfect from front to back. You must be very proud, I complimented. Yes, I am, Steve. Let's head up to the deck so you can see the small boat at the front. It was a strong, inflatable boat with a powerful motor. Christopher explained, this lift helps put it in the water when we want to go to a nearby place for supplies or a nice beach. It can carry 8 people along with a cooler for supplies. We also have fun riding around the waters. It can easily pull 2 water skiers. Laureen and I have had many good times sailing and are excited to get back out there, he said with a smile. You really know how to enjoy life, Christopher. I can only imagine how great it would be out there. No need to just imagine, Steve. We can go now if you and Kirsty are up for a little adventure. Really? We'd love to. What can I do? I replied excitedly. If you grab that line while I take this one, then give us a little push-off with your foot. We'll be on our way. He started the engine, took the wheel, and guided us safely into the open water. Once we set sail, he showed us some of the special features he had added to the boat. He started, Almost everything on this boat works automatically. I can raise and lower the sails with just a button. I can adjust the sails with this knob to control how fast we go. We can lean quite far without tipping over. Before long, we were moving quickly on the water, but the boat remained steady. It was an exciting feeling. Then Christopher brought out the fishing gear. He and I fished from the back while the girls relaxed in the sun. We caught several king mackerel and prepared them to grill. The girls cooked the fish beautifully, and we enjoyed a wonderful meal fresh from the sea. It was a great day. We did not get back until 9 p.m. Laureen had an idea. If you're interested, Christopher and I would love to take all of us scuba diving tomorrow. There are some amazing coral reefs nearby where we can anchor. The weather looks perfect for diving, nice and calm. What do you think? We would love to go, Kirsty answered, but our air tanks need to be filled. Not a problem, Christopher said. We have a small air compressor on board that can refill a tank in less than an hour. Just bring your gear. It will be a lot of fun, and don't worry about food. We have plenty stocked up. It was another beautiful day. The girls chose modest swimwear again. Laureen looked stunning, and I tried not to stare. When Christopher and I were getting ready in our scuba gear, we took off our shirts for the first time. The first thought anyone would have seeing him in swim trunks was that he was very fit. His well-toned body made me feel a bit envious. As we dived, we saw married couples exploring the reef at a depth of 50 feet. We kept an eye on the anchor line as it was the only way to find our boat, which swayed gently in the water. It was a fantastic experience being with just 4 people, unlike larger groups of 25 or 50. We enjoyed every detail the reef offered. I managed to catch 2 lobsters while Christopher caught a few good-sized grouper. We planned to have everything for dinner later. After our first dive, we relaxed in the sun to dry off before heading to our next diving spot, which was a tugboat wreck sitting upright on the ocean floor at 70 feet. We made it home by 9 p.m. again, feeling wonderful about our day. Jenna had already put the kids to bed. She gave us a hug before going back to watch a movie on our home theater. Kirsty and I decided to go to bed. I shouldn't have been too surprised. She approached me in the bedroom with more energy than she had in a long time. "Did you enjoy the view on the boat today?" I asked playfully. "Not any more than you did with Laureen," she replied. Laughing, I said, "I might have looked her way a few times over the weekend, but you were clearly focused on Christopher." Not wanting to spend more time chatting, Kirsty said, "Stop joking and let's enjoy some time together, Steve. We both need it." I agreed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that for the first time, I wasn't the sole reason for her excitement. I reminded myself that as long as she turned to me to fulfill her needs, it didn't matter what got her that way. On Wednesday evening after work, Kirsty came home full of energy. I had never seen her so thrilled. "Honey, you won't believe the invitation we got today." "An invitation? For what?" "Sailing. Laureen said she and Christopher had more fun with us last weekend than with anyone else. They usually go on sailing trips for 3 months. It's easy for them since they have plenty of money, but for us, 3 months would be too long with our jobs." I agree. We couldn't do it. I only get 6 weeks of paid vacation a year, and I have to plan anything longer than a week pretty far in advance. You only have 3 weeks. You turned them down, right? Kirsty winced and gave me a small smile. "Well, yes and no." "What do you mean? There's no way we could manage that time off without risking our jobs." I told her a 3-month trip wouldn't work for us, but Laureen suggested they could shorten it to a month just for us, she said excitedly. "I don't see that happening, but out of curiosity, when do they want to start this month-long sailing trip?" "Not this Saturday, but the next Saturday, which is the 1st of July. They promised we'd be back by July 31st. Just think, Steve, you and I could relax on a luxurious yacht with our 2 best friends." "A $10 million yacht?" Laureen wasn't bragging, honey. I got it out of her. She told me in a low voice that Christopher bought their sailboat for $5 million. He sent the yacht to an Australian company called Advanced Wind Harvesting Tech. There, he spent $5 million to upgrade it with the latest automated sail technology and top marine electronics. This means it's the finest and most luxurious private boat we are likely to experience together. You know this too. Wow! I knew it was pricey, but I had no idea it was this much. As amazing as it sounds, there's no way I could get a month off work on such short notice. Usually, I have to ask a year in advance for time like that. Plus, you wouldn't be able to arrange a month off from the hospital either. I think I can manage, sweetheart. After my 3 weeks off, I could take an extra week without pay. We can manage without my paycheck for a bit. Also, I plan to use all my charm to persuade you, she said with a wink and a smile. I'll check with my workplace, but I already have a feeling I know what they will say. But I'm ready for all your convincing ways. I soon realized she was serious about her plans. The discussion with the HR department went just as I expected. They would allow me 2 weeks off in a row, but nothing more without prior notice. Kirsty was disappointed to find out that we'd only be able to spend 2 weeks with the Belvederes at sea, and she worried they might not let us join for such a short time. Kirsty made a call. "Hello, Ross. It's Kirsty Walters, Steve's wife." "Oh, I remember you, Kirsty." "I'm glad you do." "How could I forget? You're married to one of my good friends." "Thanks for saying that, Ross. I have a favor to ask, and I need you to keep it a secret. Can I count on you?" "That depends on what you're thinking, Kirsty." "I want to plan a surprise vacation for Steve. He is the best husband, and I want to treat him if I can. We have a chance for an incredible month-long trip, but that needs permission well in advance. Steve put in for 2 weeks, but that's all." "Yes, he mentioned the sailing trip to me at lunch recently. That's exactly what I want to discuss. Remember when your kids were born and you wanted extra time at home after they arrived?" "Yes, I do." "And wasn't it Steve who helped you out by taking on your 2 weeks off so you could have the time you needed?" "That's correct, and I told him how much I appreciated that." "Well, Ross, Could you help Steve by taking his hours for 2 more weeks after his leave? That way, he can have a full month off like you did. I can do that, but it means I will have to use 2 weeks of my own vacation time to cover him. Isn't that similar to what my husband did for you when you needed help? He sighed. You're right, Kirsty. I owe him. I'll tell him tomorrow that I'll cover for him like he did for me. No, Ross. Please don't mention this to Steve. He can't know I called you. I want to surprise him with the news while we're on the trip, and that you're helping him out. Don't spoil my surprise, she begged. Understood. I won't say a thing. I hope you both enjoy your sailing trip. I will handle everything with HR and our boss without Steve finding out. 3 days later, Kirsty excitedly shared that we were going sailing with the Belvederes for 2 weeks. She kept my extra time off to herself for now. She promised to make me very happy every day we were away. That thought made me look forward to the trip. Kirsty and Lorene did some shopping before our trip, and I was told that everything would be ready for me. All I had to do was show up. I had never seen Kirsty so excited about anything like this vacation. I knew it would be a real adventure for us, unlike any we had before. I told Jenna and our 2 kids, Amelia and Eric, that this would be an adult-sonly trip. We trusted Jenna to manage everything while we were away. I gave her enough money for shopping and a credit card for any emergencies. I hugged Jenna and the kids tightly, telling them I would miss them. I promised to ask the Belvederes about including them in future trips. Day 1. On the 1st of July, I untied the ropes as we set sail on the open ocean. The girls wore their regular swimsuits that morning, while Christopher and I had on swim trunks and shirts. We both enjoyed the view our wives provided. That's a lot of beauty in one spot, I chuckled. He nodded in agreement. Christopher explained how to operate the sailboat in simple terms. He showed me how to drop and raise the anchor, telling me it would be one of my jobs on board. I was glad to help. Kirsty and I admired the colorful painting on the biggest wall in the common area of the boat. It hadn't been there during our earlier visits with them. She turned to Lorene and asked, "What's the story behind this lovely painting? I've never seen anything like it before." "It's our pride and joy, right, honey?" Christopher replied, smiling. "It's an original by American artist Jackson Pollock from 1943, a wonderful piece of abstract art. He named it Blue, Moby Dick. We found it at the Ohara Museum of Art in Kurashiki, Japan. We both fell in love with it right away and wanted it for ourselves. It took a lot of convincing for them to finally let it go. I won't say how much it cost, but it is insured for $40 million. We move it to the house when we're on land and bring it back to this boat when we are at sea. There's a special glass case over it for protection when we are on the boat. We never want to be without it. It's a part of us. We would be heartbroken if anything happened to it," she shared. After discussing the painting for a while, Christopher took me around the engine room. "This boat has the best equipment on board. For instance, over on that wall is a water maker that turns seawater into fresh water. It can produce up to 400 gallons a day. Our hot water system uses heat from the engine exhaust to warm the water. The diesel engine powers the propeller and the generator. We have enough fuel to last 6 weeks. Even if we run out of supplies, we could easily survive on fish and fresh water. On the other wall, there are the emergency shutoff switches. That big black switch disconnects the batteries and the generator from the boat's power. If there's an electrical fire, we pull that switch, but it's a last resort because it also turns off our emergency system that helps others find us if we have trouble. If you can't get to this engine room, there's another emergency button in the main cabin that shuts everything down. Those 2 valves to the right control the fuel tank. The first one stops the fuel from flowing, and the second one stops air from getting in. With both closed, the tank is sealed. Steve, did you bring your wallet and Kirsty's too, along with your passports and credit cards like I asked?" "Absolutely, Christopher. It's all here in this plastic bag." "I'm about to share something even Lorene doesn't know, and it's for her safety." "What kind of secret is it, Christopher?" I asked. "I need your promise that you won't tell anyone what I'm about to show you," he said firmly. "I promise," I replied. He led me to a locked toolbox on a workbench and opened the second drawer. Inside were various tools. He took out a special bit used for screws and attached it to a handle. Then he walked to a cabinet on the wall of the engine room. Using the bit, he removed 3 screws. The cabinet had hidden hinges, which he carefully pulled away from the wall. This revealed the inside of the boat and the back of the cabinet. He unscrewed 3 more screws and opened a panel door, revealing a hidden space. He took out a box that fit perfectly in that space. Steve, as a scuba diver, you probably know about waterproof Pelican boxes. This one is a Pelican air case that holds our valuables, cash, credit cards, and some gold and silver coins. In some places, US dollars aren't accepted, but gold and silver are. I keep 100 1-ounce gold coins and 100 1-ounce silver coins in here. We can store your passports and valuables together. If someone were to board the boat, they'd never find this hidden spot. We've had some scary moments over the years, but we've never been boarded by pirates or thieves. When he opened the case, I saw rolls of gold and silver coins among stacks of cash and other valuables. I added our items to the mix. There was plenty of space. He quickly put the waterproof box back, secured the panel, and pushed the cabinet back against the wall, screwing it back in place. The front of the cabinet looked normal, filled with oils and supplies for the engine room. I was impressed by his careful planning. It's wise to be careful and prepared, Christopher. You really have thought this through. I try my best. I also have some tools on board that I've never had to use, so I won't show you where they are, he said with a laugh. When we returned to the top of the boat, the girls called us to the front where a group of dolphins was riding the waves. We were sailing fast, but the dolphins kept up with ease. It was an exciting sight to see things in person instead of just on TV. Then Christopher surprised Kirsty and me with something special he had on board. He took off a cover from a hidden piece of equipment and disconnected it. After that, he grabbed his phone, opened an app, and launched a large drone. It flew up above, following the boat along its path. We then went inside the cabin, where he turned on the video system and picked up a remote control. He selected Input 3, and the view from the drone appeared in the highest quality I had ever seen. He said it was 8K video, even better than regular 4K. The sound was very clear, too, thanks to special software that blocked out wind noise. He let me have a turn with the drone. I played around and learned how it followed my commands. I raised it above the mast and looked straight down at the deck. Then, as the drone moved, I had the camera slowly spin around, showing the ocean from one side to the other. Christopher told us the drone could fly for an hour, but he usually brought it back after 45 minutes to be safe. His drone was quite fancy. After 30 minutes in the air, he landed it back in its spot, and it began recharging. He took out a memory card from the drone's camera and inserted it into the boat's video system in the cabin. The playback was just as clear as what we saw live. He gave the memory card to Kirsty and me as a gift, saying he had plenty more on board. Later, he put a new one in the drone's camera. Christopher showed us how he added the navigation info into the boat's computer and set it for easy sailing on the first day, but he planned for a more exciting ride the next day. Kirsty and I were amazed at how the sailboat almost sailed by itself. Christopher checked on it regularly to make sure everything was running well. We found out that our cell phones didn't work out at sea, but the Belvederes had satellite internet that worked anywhere in the world, allowing us to stay connected. The simple wireless password was Belvedere. The weather was beautiful with calm seas. The girls made sandwiches for lunch but prepared an amazing dinner for the evening. Lorene kept their 3 wine glasses filled all day. I chose to skip the drinks. I don't mind if others drink alcohol. I just never liked it for myself, even though I've tried different types. I really enjoy frozen fruit smoothies and have had many tasty non-alcoholic drinks that remind me of cocktails. In the main area of the boat, there was a big 80-inch television for us to watch movies together, and each of the 4 bedrooms had a 48-inch TV. On our first night, my friends enjoyed some fine wine while we watched 2 movies on the boat system. Kirsty kept her word to me. Later that night, she surprised me in a wonderful way that made the start of our trip very special. I noticed the whispers and sounds from the other room, which were quite lively. It seemed Lorene was very expressive, and we soon fell asleep. Day 2. On the morning of our second day, we slept in a little. I was surprised at how well we slept on the boat. It swayed gently with the waves, which felt nice and didn't bother us at all. I was ready for another fun day with our friends. We could smell breakfast being cooked bacon, eggs, and sausage, so we knew the Belvederes were getting ready for us. But I wasn't expecting what my wife chose to wear that day. It looked like something she bought with Lorene, and I wouldn't have thought she would wear it in public. Kirsty, where did you get that swimsuit? Are you really going to wear that outside of this room? I asked, surprised. What, don't you like the color? I thought you liked purple on me. It's not the color, it's the style. That swimsuit is very revealing. Did you really decide to wear that today? Of course. I didn't want to look messy, and I know you enjoy this color on me. You can't be serious about wearing that outside. I've always loved how you looked with your hair, and you've changed that without a word. Plus, you've never worn anything like that before. Are you really okay with the way it looks? Don't you see that if you bend over, everyone can see? What gives you the right to tell me what to wear? This isn't the 1950s, Steve. I can dress how I want, wherever I am. I thought you might like this change and enjoy a new look. I still have a small landing strip that should be easy to spot when I'm not dressed. Lorene and I bought matching swimsuits for this trip. Mine is purple and hers is red, which is your favorite color. I'm sure she's wearing hers now. We decided to wear them today to be a bit playful with our guys. Plus, I can get a better tan in this suit, she said. I get the times have changed, Kirsty, but I think that swimsuit shows too much. The fabric is thin, and it's very clear through it. I don't mind if others dress how they want, but I don't want my wife dressing like that. If this is how she influences you, maybe we should think about being friends with them. Don't be so serious, Steve. This is a special vacation for us. We should relax and have fun. There's no one else around for 20 miles. It's just the four of us on this nice sailboat that our friends, the Belvederes, are sharing with us. They're our best friends. Come on, let's enjoy ourselves. Besides, you and Christopher will also wear the swimsuits we picked out for you. Here's yours. Your regular suit is in the laundry anyway. Go on, put it on and let's see how great you look in it, she said playfully. I looked at the Speedo she tossed on the bed. It was purple like hers, but had less material than what she usually wears. I tried it on, even though I was unsure. It was clear to see how it fit. You can't think I'll wear this outside, right? She gave me a light pat on the back as she headed out. You don't have a choice, sweetheart. I'll give you a moment. You look fantastic. Don't keep us waiting. I'm sure breakfast is ready. Let's not let it get cold. She left me to think, feeling overwhelmed by it all. I think the girls thought surprising me would stop any complaints I might have had. I looked around but saw that I had no other swimsuit to wear besides the Speedo I already had on. I didn't like being in this situation. I felt uncomfortable with her walking around in such little clothing in front of Christopher. It didn't matter that they were best friends. So, I took off the Speedo, used my pocket knife to cut it into pieces and threw it away. Then I looked for a pair of boxers and shorts I had packed. These would be fine if they got wet. I put on a t-shirt and went to the kitchen for breakfast. When I entered the kitchen, I saw a sight that could catch anyone's attention. My eyes went right to Lorene Belvedere. She was older than Christopher by 8 years, but she looked like she could be in a magazine. Her swimwear showed off a lot except for some small parts. Kirsty had told the truth about them wearing matching swimsuits, but since Lorene was much more curvy than my wife, she was showing a lot more than Kirsty was. I noticed her swimsuit was a little tight. Lorene had a very nice shape, except for her larger chest, which I thought looked great on her. She was tall at 5 feet 6 inches, much taller than Kirsty, just like Christopher was taller than me. Lorene looked just as I expected and didn't disappoint. When she turned around, I saw a big tattoo on her left hip. It was of a sailboat with its sails up, showing the initials CB on one sail and her initials LB on the other. But the biggest surprise was Christopher. He was built like a professional athlete. He stood there without a shirt, and it caught me off guard. I had seen his strong arms before, but seeing him like this was unexpected. His chest was massive, and his muscles were very well defined. Next to him, I felt very small. I'm in good shape and can run well, but anyone seeing us together would probably find me funny to look at. His red Speedo was just like mine. It seemed a little tight, too, and I could understand why with the two models in the room. You must have worked hard for that body, Christopher, I said. It's impressive. Thanks, Steve. You're right. Ingrid is my trainer when we aren't sailing. She says my body is like her art. I spend a lot of time in our home gym working on my strength and staying fit. She helps me with my hormone treatments and gives me daily doses to take while we're at sea. Ingrid has suggested I join bodybuilding competitions. but I can't stay away from the ocean long enough to pursue that. One of the rooms on the ship has become my gym away from home, and I exercise every day to keep in shape. Lorene seems to like how I look, and that's what matters most to me. I noticed Kirsty looking at Christopher a bit too much. When I caught her, she gave me a shy smile, showing she felt guilty. She also commented on what I was wearing. "Why are you dressed like that? What happened to the swimsuit I bought you? You looked great in it." "I'm sorry, but it was too small and tore when I tried to adjust it. So, no swimsuit for me this trip," I said with a smile. "It tore? That was supposed to be stretchy fabric. That sounds strange." "Take a look in the trash if you want. It tore, so I helped it a bit more. I'm fine with what I'm wearing." "Well, I don't like what you're wearing. You need to dress down a bit. At least take off your t-shirt." "I don't think I'm wearing too much, Kirsty. You might be the one who isn't dressed enough." I glanced outside and said, "It's such a beautiful day. I think I'll just eat on the deck." With that, I left the crowded area. A few minutes later, Lorene arrived with a big glass of orange juice. "Kirsty told me you like OJ with breakfast, so I brought you some." I was standing while eating. "I only have 2 hands, Lorene, and I need them to hold my plate and fork." "That's okay, Steve. I'm happy to stand here with you and enjoy this lovely morning." She moved in front of me, making it clear she wanted my attention. I walked to the side of the deck, leaned against the railing, and looked out at the sea. She didn't seem bothered and came to stand beside me. "Kirsty mentioned that red is your favorite color, so I wore this swimsuit to impress you. Do you like it?" Not wanting to hurt her feelings, I thought carefully about my reply. "You look amazing, Lorene. Any man would admire you. I hope you understand, but I need to look away. I will never do anything that my wife wouldn't approve of, so I can't allow myself to be attracted to you if I expect my wife not to be attracted to your husband, although I think it might be too late for that already." Kirsty was right. You are a serious person. Relax, Steve. Let yourself feel what happens naturally. Of course, I want you to look at me. That's why I wore this for you. Christopher sees me without clothes all the time, so it's not special for him. It's special just for you. If that's true, then that means my wife is trying to attract someone else right now. Here's my plate, Lorene. I don't feel like eating anymore. I'll skip the juice for now, if that's all right. I think I'll just take a walk on the deck for a bit, if you don't mind." She didn't answer. "You're right, Steve. It's too nice a day to stay inside. We'll all come out to join you when the kitchen is cleaned up." Then she took my plate and went inside. I felt uneasy. Why? Lorene didn't directly approach me, but she clearly wanted to get my attention. Was that what the women were trying to do? Getting the attention of each other's husbands and then going back to their own partners later? Hadn't I thought about this before? If that's the case, why did it bother me? Am I being too strict like they say? I decided to push away those negative thoughts and keep watching, looking for patterns. After all, they had kindly invited us on this trip without asking for anything in return. One different thing about the boat was that it had set up a large, colorful sail which was speeding us along. We were facing about 11½ feet waves in the open sea. The medicine we had put on 2 days before was working well to stop seasickness. On this second day of sailing, I was getting used to the movement of the boat and was able to cope well. True to her word, Lorene and the others came out to join me in about 15 minutes. No one had a problem with me not helping in the kitchen. The women relaxed on lounge chairs on the deck. Christopher flew the drone again as we sailed toward our first stop. He was making it do fun tricks, entertaining the girls. He even buzzed near me a couple of times, but I just ignored it. When he saw I wasn't reacting, he stopped. I put on sunscreen to protect my skin from the sun. Then, I found a chair in the middle of the boat and started reading a novel I had been meaning to finish for a long time. After he tired of the drone, Christopher spent the rest of the day laughing and joking with the girls. I noticed Kirsty wave her hand to me, inviting me to join them several times. My interest didn't need encouragement. I could handle things with Kirsty well enough without being distracted by thoughts of anyone else. I looked at my phone and saw an email from my coworker, Ross Gertzke. He wished me a great time on my sailing vacation. He mentioned that there were no urgent issues at work and that I should just relax. Each evening, Jenna sent us short videos of Amelia and Eric sharing their day and how much fun they were having without us around. Jenna also sent her love and said she missed us a lot, looking forward to having us back safe at home. Aside from Kirsty, Jenna is one of the kindest and most thoughtful people I know. We're lucky to have her in our lives. Throughout the day, Kirsty expressed her disappointment that I was keeping my distance from the group. She called me rude and said I was hurting their feelings. I didn't respond to her comments, which only frustrated her more. Christopher asked me to do my job and drop anchor as we neared the Turks and Caicos Islands. The sails were automatically stowed away, and we all felt excited to finally stop and enjoy the view. We had a nice dinner, and I helped clean up this time. I tried to keep my gaze on Kirsty, avoiding looking at Laureen and Christopher as much as I could, but I remained friendly in our conversations. Since the sun stayed up until almost 9 p.m., we decided to scuba dive around the nearby coral reefs. Christopher surprised us by bringing out 4 underwater scooters instead of the 2 we expected. He turned to Kirsty and me. "So, you two have heard Laureen and me talk about these scooters. You've also mentioned you've rented scooters before during dives. We aren't giving them to you, but you are welcome to use them anytime you like. These are the Scuba Jet Pro, which can go up to 5 miles per hour when fully charged and last between 2 to 4 hours. They have a tether to help you keep hold of them. What do you say? Are you interested?" "Oh, we're definitely in, Christopher. Thank you and Laureen for thinking of us. This dive will be even more fun than we thought," I replied excitedly. The Elkhorn coral was stunning and in excellent shape. The colorful underwater life was incredible. We spent all our time enjoying the dive, sharing stories about the amazing sights we'd seen. We had a great time with the scooters. It was nearly a perfect experience. Christopher managed to catch more than a dozen fish, showing off his haul on deck. He asked me to help him clean them. I was glad to help because I knew I would enjoy the food after it was cooked. We all agreed to go to Grand Turk. The ocean near the beaches of English Point and Cockburn Town Beach was great for anchoring our boat. Christopher told us there were no marinas for private yachts and boats. We all changed into casual clothes for the trip to the island. Laureen closed the passage leading into the cabin and locked it up tight. Christopher had secretly visited the Pelican box and gave me $300, 0 from the cash we had stored there for emergencies. I was happy he didn't want us to pay for everything. Being a good husband, I gave our $300, 0 to Kirsty. I helped Christopher lower the small boat into the water and we all got in. He mentioned there was a public dock at Cockburn Town for landing. Customs met us at the dock. They spoke English and accepted US dollars. We learned that boaters must follow the same passport rules as air travelers, so we needed valid passports. Lucinda, the customs officer, also told us that any drugs illegal in the United States or the United Kingdom were likely illegal in the Turks and Caicos too, with heavy penalties for possession. Since we had nothing to declare, we went shopping. The girls explored several stores while Christopher and I looked for some snacks, especially fresh pineapple. On the way back, the girls excitedly shared what they discovered. I handed up the groceries and secured the small boat. Christopher lifted it onto the deck, and after some more wine and friendly talk, we all settled in for the night. As I expected, Kirsty was eager for some time together. We took turns showing our affection for each other, ensuring we enjoyed every moment. We shared sweet laughs as we communicated and enjoyed our time together. Kirsty joked that there should be a new word for happiness, and I couldn't disagree with her. Day 3. The next morning, I was pleasantly surprised when Kirsty woke me up with a loving gesture. For some reason, she seemed more interested than ever. I thought I understood why, but I reminded myself it didn't matter where her enthusiasm came from as long as she shared it with me. After we spent some time together, we both took showers to start the day fresh. She wanted to shower first to help Laureen with breakfast. When I stepped out of the shower, I found a surprise waiting for me. A brand new swimsuit was on the bed, and my wife was there holding a glass of wine. I ignored the swimsuit and checked the drawers and closet. All my clothes were missing. It seemed she had put them somewhere else. "This isn't funny, Kirsty. Where are my clothes?" "Everything you need for today is on the bed, sweetheart. Laureen and I picked out a new swimsuit for you yesterday. I'm sure it will fit you perfectly," she said. "As I told you before, I don't want to wear that. I just want my regular swim trunks or the same shorts I wore yesterday. I'm sorry, but the laundry is still not done. Everything is being washed except for this new swimsuit. We both think you will look great in it. Just try it on, she insisted. And why aren't your clothes in the wash too? Most of my clothes are being washed as well, except for a few items. If you really don't want to wear the new swimsuit, you could wear one of mine instead. This is getting silly, Kirsty. I won't wear your clothes, and aren't you starting early with the wine? If you won't wear my clothes, then you should wear the swimsuit. Come on, Steve. Don't be such a spoil sport. We've been having fun with our swimsuits. Now it's your turn. I love the wine here. They brought some really nice bottles. I feel like I can relax on this trip without worrying about anything. Enjoying life is a gift, after all. I see. And what about your top? You're not going out like that, are you? I sure am. We all agreed yesterday that today would be a day without tops for the girls and without shirts for you guys. Don't forget to put on sunscreen. I never agreed to that. You silly man. The three of us chose together, so your vote wouldn't have changed anything anyway. Come on, Steve, just relax and have some fun like we are. I really don't want you to go out like that today. I can't control everyone else, but I should have a say with you. I'm not going to be the only one dressed differently today, Steve, so get used to it. Remember how much fun we had last night? It was great, and we all enjoyed ourselves because of what we wore. This should make it even more exciting for us. You know you're curious about how Lorene would look. I see where your attention goes when she's around. Come on, be a good sport and join us in this enjoyable adventure. I'll say it again, Kirsty. I don't want you to dress like that outside. If you do, it will really bother me. You promised you would do everything you could to make me happy on this trip. You dressing that way will make me unhappy, and I don't like feeling tricked into wearing this tight swimsuit. Just the thought of you being exposed in front of Christopher is hard for me. Please don't go through with this. We thought you might feel a bit uneasy at first, so it's okay if you're hesitant. Once you're out with us, you'll have a great time, just like the rest of us. I'm going to help with breakfast now. I expect you to wear that swimsuit and join us in the common area. Please don't make me come find you, Steve. Do this for me. With that, she left the room, wearing only her small bikini bottom. I couldn't help but feel unsettled about it. I had limited clothing options. Kirsty had really let go of her worries. Was it the wine making her so bold? I wasn't quite ready to let go yet. I tried on the swimsuit and felt uncomfortable with how tight it was. I decided to look around for other options and noticed my pocket knife on the dresser. An idea came to me. I took a towel and made some cuts along one side. Then I cut a strip from another towel. I threaded the strip through the holes I made in the towel and tied it around my waist. This way the swimsuit could act as my underwear under the towel. Next, I took another large towel and cut a small opening in the center. I put my head through the hole and let the towel drape around me, using another strip to secure it at my waist. Looking in the mirror, I felt like I was wearing something from ancient times. When I walked into the kitchen for breakfast, I heard groans from everyone there. You have to be kidding me! Steve, are you trying to upset our hosts? Kirsty hinted. Of course not. I'm just staying in my comfort zone. Are you going to pay for those ruined towels? Christopher asked. I'll take the cost of your towels off the price of my missing clothes, I replied. I could see their disappointment as they all rolled their eyes at me. Lorene was wearing very little. I was struggling to keep my cool being around her like this. Christopher seemed too happy to stare at my wife. Even though Kirsty was short like a pixie, she looked good in every way and was lovely to anyone who saw her. Christopher, could you help me out here? Just man to man as friends? What do you need? He asked without much interest. For some reason, our wives have decided to show off, and I'm not okay with it. Kirsty is not going along with it for me because I asked her not to. So, if she is showing off today, it seems like she wants your attention, and that bothers me. I promised to ignore Lorene so I can discourage this behavior, and I would appreciate it if you could do the same with Kirsty. Steve, I'm a man, and I can't help but notice. If a woman wants to show off and I'm around, I can't just look away. And I don't mind if the ladies want to show off a bit. You can freely enjoy Lorene's beauty. You won't hear any complaints from me. I understand. If that's how it is, I'll just keep my distance from both of them. At least one of us is trying to keep things a little less lively. The disagreement was clear. Lorene tried to change the subject to ease the tension. Breakfast will be ready in about 10 minutes, she said. We have plenty for everyone. Eager to leave, I poured myself a big glass of orange juice. Don't worry about fixing anything for me. I'll just go up on deck and enjoy this juice for breakfast. You three take your time and make what you want. Call me when you're done. I'll handle the cleanup in the kitchen myself so you can relax and enjoy your day." With that, I quickly left the kitchen, leaving the three of them behind, much to their surprise. Kirsty followed me quickly. "You embarrassed me in front of them, Steve. Stop acting so stiff. Go back down and say sorry to our friends. You look silly wearing those towels. Just take them off and join in." "You think I embarrassed you? The most embarrassing moment I ever faced happened when another man asked my then girlfriend to marry him right in front of me, and she said yes. I couldn't believe it. I felt like asking Kirsty why she was doing this. Wasn't I enough for her? It seemed clear to me that someone else had caught her attention. This is not the same thing, and you know it. She chose someone else, but I'm not going anywhere. This is just about being free and comfortable with our bodies. You're making a big deal out of nothing. You better say sorry to them soon. Just relax and have fun with us. We want you to feel included. Remember, you have a few minutes." I took my time sipping my orange juice and enjoying the lovely view from the boat. I ignored the time and stayed for about 25 minutes. Eventually, the others came to join me on deck, clearly annoyed with me. "We made a mess in the kitchen. You wanted the fun, so now cleaning up is your job," Kirsty said with frustration. "Sure, thanks. I really appreciate it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to enjoy some quiet time while I clean. Any task worth doing is worth doing well." The fact that I seemed to enjoy their punishment made them even angrier. I had not been in the kitchen for long when Lorene came in, teasing me about wanting to help. "I'll be happy for your help if you cover up while we work together. Do we have a deal?" "No deal," she replied with a grin. "Don't forget that Christopher and I own this boat. I can be wherever I want, and I want to be here with you while we clean." "Excuse me, Lorene, I need to step away for a moment," I said quickly before heading to the bedroom I shared with Kirsty. I grabbed a book and locked myself in the bathroom. 30 minutes later, Kirsty knocked on the door. "Why do you have to act so childish? You can come out now. We finished cleaning the kitchen. We're going scuba diving again, and you don't want to miss that. Come on out and get your gear on so we can all have fun together." With that, she left me to think. Finally, I made my way back to the deck where they were putting on their diving gear, ready for the adventure. I searched through my gear storage and found my dive skin. It's a thin, snug, one-piece suit made from stretchy, breathable material. Its main job is to protect my skin from anything that might irritate it underwater, like jellyfish. I went back to our room and hid my toga outfit where nobody would find it easily. Then I put on my dive skin over my small swim trunks. The dive skin covers me better than just the swim trunks. On the deck, no one had a problem with me wearing the dive skin, which was a relief. Kirsty and Lorene put on their buoyancy compensators, or BCs. These are jackets that can hold air, and the air tank is attached to them. The diver adds air to the jacket to help float in the water, balancing the weight of any gear. Thankfully, the BCs covered them up nicely. Their swimsuit bottoms were still visible, but at least they had some covering. Today, we planned to switch dive partners. Kirsty would dive with Christopher while he spearfished, and Lorene would be my buddy as she took pictures with her underwater camera. I didn't mind since they both looked fairly decent in my opinion. We chose not to use the underwater scooters for this dive because they wouldn't be helpful for spearfishing or taking photos. We were diving on a reef at about 65 feet deep. The visibility was great, so even though Christopher and Kirsty were a bit far away, we could still see each other clearly. Christopher spotted an octopus moving along the reef and signaled Lorene to come and see it. We swam over to join them. Before showing the octopus, he took a few pictures with a nice silver snapperfish he had caught. Once satisfied with the photos, he pointed out the slithering creature. Lorene was busy taking a lot of pictures of the octopus with her underwater camera, which was safely attached to her BC with a short rope so it wouldn't get lost if she dropped it. Suddenly, something alarming happened. Christopher dropped his fish and quickly zoomed to the surface, leaving us behind. Kirsty, following the rules of diving, also surfaced without hesitation. Christopher and I had both seen 3 white-tip reef sharks swimming in our direction. While these sharks aren't usually longer than 5 feet, they are known for being aggressive and could be dangerous. I remembered that Christopher had said we should get back to the boat right away if we saw any white-tip sharks or other dangerous ones. We were far from any help, so it was better to be safe. I tried to get Lorene's attention, but she was focused on taking pictures. After tapping her shoulder a few times, she finally turned to me. I pointed out two sharks swimming toward us from different sides. She got scared, dropped her camera, and started kicking her fins fast to swim up. Christopher and my wife paused just below the boat, ready to help but unable to do anything from a distance. I didn't want to leave Lorene behind. Her camera fell into a small crack in the coral, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pull it out. I saw her eyes widen, and I heard her yell through her regulator. The sharks were moving in closer, signaling that they could be dangerous. The blood from Christopher's catch had attracted them. Without thinking, I took out my dive knife, planning to cut the camera's line so she could get free. Lorene was too panicked to think about loosening the line from her gear. She was thrashing around and getting nowhere, making the tangled line tighter. I realized the shark would reach her before I could help, so I quickly positioned myself between Lorene and the closest shark. Suddenly, 4 more white-tipped sharks appeared and started circling us. I remembered that sharks often close their inner eyelids before biting. Seeing that, I knew I had to act fast. Forgetting about the camera's line, I stabbed the shark in the side of its head with my knife. The shark immediately turned away, twisting in the water, trying to shake off the pain. The second shark was almost on me but pulled back when it saw its friend get hurt. I hit its snout hard and it quickly swam away. The first shark was bleeding and struggling in the water, trying to dislodge the knife stuck in its side. Sharks are very good at sensing blood in the water, and soon started to attack the injured shark. Before long, a frenzy began as the other sharks joined in. While the sharks were busy, I quickly unhooked Lorene's camera from her gear and guided her gently upwards to the surface. We paused our ascent at a depth of 12 feet for our safety stop. I gave her the OK sign with my fingers to help calm her down. She was breathing too fast, and her air tank was almost empty. I shared my spare regulator with her so she could breathe easily. The sharks were about 45 feet below us, no longer paying attention to us as they enjoyed their meal. After our safety stop, Lorene and I surfaced and climbed onto the boat where Kirsty and Christopher had been watching us from above. After we removed our diving gear, Lorene hugged me tightly. "I can't thank you enough, Steve. You saved my life. If it weren't for your quick thinking and calm actions, I might have been hurt or worse. I'm so lucky to be here thanks to you." "A dive buddy looks out for each other, and that's what I did, Lorene. Even though white-tip sharks can be dangerous, I would never put you in harm's way. I simply did what I felt was right to protect you." Christopher shook my hand, truly thankful for my quick response. "With my fear of sharks, I couldn't have handled that like you did. Thank you." Kirsty seemed a bit indifferent about the whole event. "That's just Steve for you. He always thinks fast and tackles trouble head-on, even if it means putting himself at risk. It's one of the many reasons I fell for him." "Maybe it's old news for you, Kirsty, but it's new to me. I've never had someone prove they would risk everything to save me like you did today, Steve. You're amazing. I want you to know that I appreciate what you did. I'm here for you anytime you need." I finally managed to release Lorene from our hug. Kirsty looked at me with pride, glad that her husband had shown such courage in a tough situation. I checked my air tank and saw I still had enough air left. I put on my weight belt, secured it, and then slipped my BC and tank back on before putting on my fins and mask. "Where do you think you're going?" Kirsty asked firmly. "I just need to grab Lorene's camera from down below. I'm sure the sharks have moved away from the area by now." "Oh no, please don't take that risk, Steve. That camera isn't worth your safety." I laughed a little. "Don't worry, I'll be careful. I might also look for my dive knife while I'm at it, though I'm not expecting to find it." Then I jumped back into the water. After getting my bearings, I found the part of the reef where we had been. It was easy to retrieve Lorene's camera, and there were no sharks around, so I felt safe. I looked for my dive knife and Christopher's spear, but came up empty. That's okay. I can buy another knife at the next stop. Lorene was surprised when I handed her the camera. She was excited and eager to see her photos of the octopus. She connected the memory card to the home theater system and started a slideshow. The close-up shots were really impressive. Once I dried off, I put on my toga again, which seemed to surprise the others. I guess they thought I would change into something else. They were still watching the slideshow as I walked up to the deck. The girls were still wearing their swimsuits, and Christopher was sitting in a way that made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be part of that scene. Later, Christopher joined me on deck. He asked me to help with the anchor while he set the auto-navigation system to take us to St. Kitts and Nevis in the Lesser Antilles. The wind was calm and perfect for sailing as we headed toward our new destination. He programmed the controls to manage the sails and set a notification for when we arrived. The girls made what seemed like a big lunch spread. As I tried to take my plate up to the deck to eat by myself, they insisted I stay with them. Christopher firmly reminded me that it was his boat and his rules. They were trying to get me to stay with them during the meal. I left the food on the table, went to my room, grabbed a power bar I had brought, and got an ice-cold soda from the fridge before heading out, leaving them to enjoy their time in the galley. This time, Lorene came after me on deck. "Why don't you come back down and join us, Steve? We made your favorite foods because after what you did, you really deserve it." I just heard, "Your boat, your rules. You can keep your food, Lorene. I'm fine with my power bar." "Please don't act like that." "Lorene, as you said before, it's your boat, and I agree you can go wherever you want. But if you want to stay up here without a shirt, then I'll just go to bed. You can enjoy the nice air without worrying about me." "All right, Steve, you win. I'll go back inside so you won't have to see me," she said sadly. "But I'll get you a big plate of food and have Christopher bring it up here. We just want you to hang out with us. Honestly, it's not as fun without you. If you put on some clothes, I'll stay. Otherwise..." She sadly walked back to the cabin, and soon Christopher came with a big plate of food. He didn't say anything, just handed it to me and went back inside. About 45 minutes later, the three of them came back and pulled up chairs to join me. The girls were still without shirts, so I quietly said, "Please excuse me." I went to our sleeping area and turned on the TV. As I thought, my upset wife soon came in. "What's wrong with you, Steve? Are you going to act like a child the whole trip? Lighten up. You don't need to be rude to our kind hosts. We're just relaxing and being ourselves, while you act like you can't have fun. Go be with your friends, Kirsty. You seem to like them more than me. I'm going to video call Jenna and the kids. Unless you want them to see you being carefree, I suggest you leave. To be honest, Kirsty, I'd rather be home with them than here with you three." Upset, she stormed out and slammed the door. I connected with Jenna and spent over 30 minutes catching up. It was nice to hear about all the fun things she was doing with the kids. I thought I saw a tear in her eye as she told me how much she missed me. Amelia was the only one who asked about her mom. I explained that she was busy with her friends and would talk to them next time we connected. Eric had just one complaint. "It's that song Jenna keeps playing over and over again." "I'm not sure how she can keep listening to it," he said, feeling frustrated. "What song?" I asked. "It's called Bring Him Home from the musical Les Miserables. I'm just tired of it," he replied. I told him that Jenna doesn't ask for much, and that he should let her enjoy it. About an hour later, Christopher invited me to join them in the common area. When I looked out from my room, I saw all three of them sitting together on the couch in white bathrobes. It was unusual, but something I could handle. Christopher turned to his wife and she said, "We're sorry, Steve, for surprising you today. We didn't mean to upset you. Honestly, we thought you would want to join us in some fun, but it's about love and sharing." "What do you mean, Lorene?" I asked. "Please forgive us for getting into your personal life, but we had a reason. Kirsty mentioned that you and she sometimes watch adult films. Is that true?" "I don't see how that relates, but yes, we do watch them occasionally to add some excitement. I think most couples do." "Oh, we completely agree, Steve. Christopher and I enjoy those films too, to add some fun to our relationship. We have even filmed some of our own moments. We really appreciate having you and Kirsty with us on this trip, and we haven't asked for anything in return. But now, we have a special request for both of you." "What kind of special request?" I asked, intrigued. "Christopher and I would like to try something new with you as observers. We've never done this before in front of anyone. I want to be clear that neither of you will participate physically. Just watching is all we ask. You've said you enjoy those films, and it would mean a lot to us to perform in front of a couple we trust. The difference is that this will be real. We would need you to watch us and be engaged, not turn away. This is the only thing we will ask from you in return for this trip. I'm asking you and Kirsty to help us with this one event unless you decide you want to do it again. If you don't want to, there's no pressure from us. We won't bring it up after tonight. You have our promise. Will you both do this for us?" We're asking for this one thing and nothing else. Will you help us fulfill one of our dreams, please?" She looked at them earnestly. I turned to Kirsty. She shrugged and said, "I'm okay if you are, but it's really up to you. You have to admit that the Belvederes have gone far to treat us to a great vacation, and this is all they want in return. If you say no, I won't be happy, but I will support your choice." I thought about it for a moment. "I'm glad you asked for my permission first instead of surprising me. Before I say anything, I have a question." "Sure, ask away," Lorene replied, clearly excited. "I need to know if Kirsty and I will not be involved with you during this event. You don't expect us to join in or do anything like that while you two are, right?" To be clear, while it would be nice to share, we do not expect that. Whether you kiss or touch each other is up to you both and is completely optional. I glanced at Kirsty again. She looked eager for me to say yes. Honestly, I wasn't worried about being too exposed because I felt it would be one-sided. Kirsty's robe made me feel more comfortable. I said, "Kirsty, as long as you promise to keep your robe on and to yourself during their event, I'm okay with agreeing to their request as a way to thank them for this trip. Can you promise?" "Yes, I promise, though I might feel tempted to reach out, but I won't unless you say it's okay." Lorene smiled widely. "Just remember, you both have to watch us with interest until we finish. Agreed?" "Agreed," Kirsty and I said together, although she sounded more enthusiastic than I did. It struck me as funny that I had spent all day trying not to see Lorene without her robe, and now I had agreed to watch them put on a show in front of us. I realized that this was a trade for their generosity, and while I would go along with their request, I felt cautious about accepting future favors like this again. Christopher stood up from the couch and extended his hand to Lorene politely. Kirsty sat quietly on the couch while I stayed in a nearby chair just a few feet away. She gave me a friendly gesture, patting the seat next to her, inviting me to sit closer, but I declined with a simple shake of my head. Christopher and his wife were dressed in very little, revealing most of their bodies. Christopher wore only tight blue underwear while his wife was in a thin red outfit. Though revealing, her outfit covered more than what she had been wearing earlier that day, which was a bit of a surprise. It was hard not to notice Lorene. She had a striking appearance that grabbed everyone's attention. She stood in front of us, her husband behind her, and her eyes met mine in an intense gaze. Christopher began to kiss her neck gently, his hands moving over her body. The way they interacted felt intimate and personal. He lifted her outfit over her head, leaving her partially covered, but their actions continued with a sense of closeness between them. As things became more heated, Lorene stepped aside and moved toward her husband, touching him in a way that made it clear they were both deeply connected. I glanced at Kirsty, who seemed equally captivated by what was happening. The atmosphere was charged with tension, but it was clear that this was a private moment shared between the couple, meant only for their own enjoyment. Lorene and Christopher were seated together, engaged in a moment of quiet connection. Lorene carefully focused her attention on him, showing affection through her touch. As their interaction deepened, it was clear that they shared a strong bond, one filled with comfort and warmth. Christopher reacted to her presence, clearly enjoying the attention. With a gentle motion, Lorene turned him slightly to face her more directly, allowing her to continue their quiet exchange. She made him feel appreciated, her actions tender and soothing. The way they communicated required no words, just gestures and glances. It was a private moment of affection shared between the two, while Kirsty and I sat quietly nearby, observing without interrupting. Lorene then leaned in closer, continuing to offer gentle touches. Her actions were calming, and Christopher reacted with quiet satisfaction. There was an undeniable sense of trust and care between them. They seemed lost in the moment, connected in a way that was personal to them. I watched, feeling a sense of peace in witnessing this moment of intimacy unfold. Though nothing was said aloud, their body language spoke volumes. Lorene's careful movements seemed designed to show how much she valued Christopher, and he responded in kind. It was as if time slowed down around them. Everything about the scene reflected mutual respect and affection, and though we observed from a distance, it was clear that their bond was deep and genuine. Lorene and Christopher continued their intimate connection, with Lorene smiling warmly, clearly enjoying the moment. The atmosphere in the room was one of closeness and affection, as they shared a quiet, personal exchange. Kirsty, seated nearby, seemed captivated by the scene, quietly observing without saying a word. As Lorene stood up, she kept her focus on me, still smiling. Christopher quickly returned with a couple of large pillows, placing them on the table nearby, and adjusted the space so it was closer to where I sat. Lorene lay back on the cushions in a relaxed position, comfortable and calm. Her expression reflected a sense of ease, as if she was fully present in the moment. Christopher knelt beside her, gently holding her as he leaned in closer. His actions were careful, showing his affection through touch. They shared a deep understanding between them, and it was clear that they were enjoying the connection they had. Christopher stayed by her side, making sure she was comfortable, and Lorene responded with a look of contentment. Their interaction was quiet and filled with trust. Lorene's gaze shifted toward me briefly, but it was clear that she and Christopher were lost in their own world, sharing something personal and meaningful. The atmosphere in the room remained calm and intimate, with both of them fully engaged in their quiet moment together. Throughout the exchange, there was no need for words, as their actions spoke for themselves. It was clear that they cared deeply for one another, and the scene reflected a sense of mutual respect and affection. I remained seated, observing from a respectful distance, aware of the deep connection they shared. Christopher and Lorene shared a moment of deep connection, their affection for one another clear. Lorene responded to Christopher's touch, her body trembling slightly as she seemed lost in the moment. The bond between them was undeniable, and their movements reflected a sense of trust and intimacy. I could feel the intensity of the scene, though I remained quietly seated, aware of the closeness they shared. Suddenly, Lorene's body tensed, and it was clear she was overwhelmed with emotion. She expressed her feelings openly, her body reacting to the care Christopher was showing her. The energy in the room shifted as her sense of release filled the space, and it was obvious that they were both fully immersed in the experience. Christopher helped Lorene into a more comfortable position, showing tenderness as he did so. Their movements were synchronized, reflecting how well they knew one another. Lorene's quiet acceptance of the moment, along with Christopher's care, displayed the depth of their relationship. It was a private, shared connection, and I simply observed from the side. After a short while, they continued their affectionate interaction, with Christopher helping Lorene to stand and making sure she was comfortable. They were lost in their own world, sharing something that was meaningful to both of them. It was a quiet, tender moment, one that reflected the trust and love they clearly had for each other. As the scene unfolded, it was clear that both of them were fully engaged in the moment, enjoying the connection they had. Their closeness was something special, and even as I watched from a distance, I could sense the care and respect that was the foundation of their relationship. She was caught up in the intensity of the moment, both of them seeking comfort and connection. Their actions became more urgent, moving in sync, their bond growing stronger. There was a clear sense of passion, though words were unnecessary as they communicated through their closeness. Kirsty, seated nearby, was watching them with focused attention, clearly captivated by what she saw. Her reaction was evident, but I stayed where I was, feeling the weight of the situation but keeping myself composed. As things settled, Christopher and Lorene rested together, both of them visibly exhausted. Kirsty, still caught up in the moment, suddenly blurted, "That was incredible! I've never experienced anything like that before." The words came out before she realized the weight of what she was saying, and she immediately looked embarrassed. "Steve, don't worry about it," I said quickly, cutting her off. "Let's just leave it at that. I'm heading to bed. It's over now, and we've seen what we needed to." I stood up, feeling like the atmosphere had shifted and needed some space. Lorene called after me, but the mood had changed. I could hear them talking behind me, a mix of disappointment and frustration as Christopher and Lorene expressed their feelings about the shift in the evening. Later, around 11 p.m., Kirsty quietly came into the room and slipped into bed beside me. She was clearly remorseful and spoke softly. "I'm so sorry about what I said earlier. I didn't mean it the way it came out. I was just caught up in everything and wanted to show some appreciation for their openness. And I also want to apologize for how I acted earlier. I shouldn't have taken things out on you. "How are Jenna and the kids?" she asked, trying to shift the conversation. "Jenna's been great with them," I replied. "She's keeping them so busy they barely notice we're not there. Amelia asked about you, and I told her you were busy and would talk to them next time." "I'm so thankful we have Jenna," Kirsty agreed. "She's been a blessing, and I've missed you today. Watching you handle that situation earlier, I couldn't help but feel proud. It reminded me of why I'm so attracted to you. Seeing Loreen's interest in you, in front of both of us, made me realize again how much I value you. When someone else sees what I see in you, it only makes me appreciate you more. Since you avoided her all day and I regretted what I said, she made me promise that I would give you an amazing evening. I feel bad about my words and actions, and I'm eager to spend time with you, but I wonder if one night will be enough. You say you missed me, yet you chose to be with others and not with me. I don't believe you're truly attracted to me. You've been focused on Christopher all day. He's the reason you're excited, not me." "It doesn't matter how I feel as long as you're the one with me," she replied, sounding defensive. "I was with you, Kirsty. I noticed when you had your moment. Don't deny it. You were distracted by someone else. Knowing you're thinking of him doesn't make me want to be close to you now. Why not go back to them and enjoy yourself some more? You know they are done for the night. After seeing what went on earlier, you can't pretend you're not interested. You've never said no to intimacy before, and you won't start now. There's a first time for everything, and this is it. I'm tired and frustrated with you. You've made me unhappy today. It doesn't help to be near you while you think of someone else. I'm going to sleep. Please don't touch me tonight." I turned away and closed my eyes. "Are you really turning your back on me?" she asked in disbelief. "Fine, go ahead, see if I care," she replied angrily. She turned off the light and climbed into bed next to me, respecting my wish to keep distance. Day 4. When I woke up the next day, I noticed that Kirsty was gone. My toga was also missing. A quick look around revealed that none of our clothes were in the room. I could hear voices in the hallway, likely the three of them preparing breakfast. I went to find a towel to make another toga, but there were none left. Confused, I opened the door slightly and called for Kirsty. She answered, but I was caught off guard by her reply. "Good morning. It seems like someone enjoyed sleeping in." "Sleeping in? It's only 6:30 a.m. That's hardly sleeping in. Wait a minute. Where's your swimsuit? Why are you not wearing anything? Have you been outside like that? This can't be real." "Today is a special day on this sailboat, and the captain says everyone must follow the rules, including you. Don't worry, there's no touching, just looking. This day is meant for you, Steve. Christopher can look, but Loreen is fine with you seeing her too. It's only fair you let her see you too. I'm proud of you, and I think she should see you as you are." "Nude day? You must be joking," I said, feeling upset. "We're serious about this. After what you watched last night, you can't complain because we've already seen everything. This time we knew you might try to escape, so there's no clothing available. All the towels are secured. Breakfast will be ready soon, and you better join us in a few minutes, or we'll just eat here without you." Then she left me feeling frustrated. I realized there were no sheets or covers on the bed. Were they really trying to force me into this? I needed a quick plan, or I'd have to give in to their scheme. Right on time, I stepped out of the room and headed to the kitchen to get something to eat. Christopher slammed his hand on the counter. "What did you do, Steve? You ruined the curtains. You used our nice curtains for something else? No one has ever worn anything as fancy as what you have on now," he said loudly. The girls laughed at my cleverness. I realized I was the only one in the room still wearing something. I tried not to look at them and just focused on the food on the table. I grabbed some eggs, bacon, and toast, then took a glass of orange juice and headed toward the deck. But soon I found that the way to the deck was locked from the inside. They didn't say anything, but I could feel their eyes on me. I squeezed past the two laughing women in the kitchen and slipped into the engine room. I locked the door behind me, hoping it would be enough to make them leave me alone. Just to be safe, I pushed a chair under the door handle. They have keys, but I hoped my blockage would slow down their plans. As I had my breakfast, all three of them took turns knocking and calling out to me. Each one waited a few minutes. I ignored them and enjoyed my meal alone. After about 45 minutes of no sounds from outside, I felt it was safe to leave. I quietly put my dirty dishes in the sink and checked the cabin. It was quiet, but the hatchway was now open. I quietly made my way up to the deck. I could hear them talking at the front of the boat. When I crept closer without being seen, I saw the girls relaxing while Christopher was beside Lorene. They were whispering softly, and it seemed like they were waiting for something or someone. Maybe me? I decided to find out what was going on and walked over. "Oh, hi, Steve," Kirsty said. "We were wondering when you would come out. Just so you know, Christopher could have gone into the engine room, but we thought you might want to have your moment alone." As Kirsty spoke, Lorene looked right at me while Christopher rubbed sunscreen over her skin. He was focused on her, and she seemed to enjoy it very much. Lorene was clearly comfortable. Christopher didn't look my way. He was engrossed in what he was doing. Lorene opened her legs wide, making it clear that she was allowing him all the access he wanted. It reminded me of what I had seen the night before. Then Kirsty chimed in, "Steve, would you help me like Christopher is helping Lorene? I think it would be wise for me to put some sunscreen on to avoid sunburn." Kirsty was completely exposed, and it bothered me to see her like that with Christopher so close. "You can do it yourself, Kirsty. You can reach most of your body without help. I would prefer if you did it privately, but it seems my wishes don't matter lately. I'm sure Lorene can help with your back if she feels like it. Otherwise, come find me and I will help." With that, I left, still wearing my makeshift wrap, and went back to our room. I didn't lock the door because I knew the three of them could get in easily whenever they wanted. Soon, an upset Kirsty joined me. "Why couldn't you do something so simple for me? Are you embarrassed by my body? You really killed the mood. Christopher didn't touch me. He only put lotion on Lorene. Is it too much to ask for you to help me with some sunscreen? Since we met, you've never asked me to help you with that. You usually do it yourself. I have only helped with your back, and you've never applied lotion in front of anyone else. What's going on with you lately, Kirsty? Are you saying you want to behave like Lorene? She is not that way. She's my best friend, and I care about her. Why do you have to be so boring and serious?" "If she's not that way, then how do you explain a woman who clearly offers herself to another man right in front of her husband?" "How can you say that? She was just being grateful for saving her life. It's not fair to put her down for that." "So you think that's okay? If Christopher saved you instead of me saving Lorene, would you really have done the same in front of me to show your gratitude?" Kirsty didn't answer. "Look, Steve, this is going nowhere. What will it take for you to come down and join the rest of us in some innocent fun?" "Simple. Just put your clothes back on and stay with me, your husband, instead of going to join your other friends right now." She looked down, sad, and walked out, closing the door behind her. I started to feel really worried about our marriage. After seeing the strong bodybuilder all day, I wasn't sure if my body would appeal to her anymore. So far, there hadn't been any physical closeness, but if things continued this way, I feared it wouldn't be long. Once she joined them on the deck, I went to the kitchen and made myself a couple of sandwiches, grabbed some snacks, a 2-liter bottle of soda, and a bucket of ice. With plenty of food in my room, I was ready to avoid any plans to skip meals again. I turned on the TV, hoping to not see them for the rest of the morning, but within 15 minutes all three of them came into the room with chairs. The girls sat on my right while I lay on the bed and Christopher sat to my left. All three of them settled comfortably, likely to get my attention. "What's on TV, sweetie?" Kirsty asked playfully. "Does it really matter? Anything good is better watched on the big screen in the common area, right?" "That's true," Lorene joined in, "but you're in here now, and that makes this room special for us." They were all smiling, enjoying my discomfort. Kirsty added, "We thought you'd like more time with us like this. The more you see us, the sooner you'll get used to it. It's nice and cozy here, don't you think, Lorene?" Frustrated, I quickly flipped through the channels until I found a Shark Week episode and turned the volume up. Christopher was not having it. He got up and unplugged the TV. Not wanting to give in, I grabbed my hat, phone, earbuds, sunglasses, and sunscreen from my room and headed to the back deck, setting up my lounge chair to watch the water as we moved along. I wasn't alone for long. All three of them soon joined me, finding spots where I could see them. I put on my sunglasses, applied sunscreen to my exposed skin, put on my hat, sat back, and started listening to the music I had saved on my phone. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and focused on the music. I chose to ignore them, which was my goal. After some time, they realized I wasn't paying attention, and they tried to change that. Several times, Kirsty bothered me by pulling my earbuds out and asking silly questions to get me to engage with them. One time, while I was fixing my earbuds, I noticed a bucket of ice they had for their drinks. I stood up, handed the bottle to Christopher, who took it without thinking, then dumped the ice bucket over Kirsty's head. She did not find my joke funny and was quite surprised. "Leave me alone, Kirsty, unless you want more of that. You can sit anywhere and chat among yourselves. Just let me enjoy my music in peace." Lorene started to say something, but I shot her an annoyed look. Christopher added his thoughts. "Hey man, we just want to spend time with you. Is that so bad? Hang out as much as you like, just leave me be, please. Is that too much to ask?" They stuck around with me until lunchtime, trying to get me to talk or even look at them. I disappointed them on both counts. They eventually went to prepare lunch. Lorene soon came back and asked what I wanted to eat. I told her I had it covered. She walked away looking a bit sad. I think she felt it was unfair that Christopher and Kirsty were together while I was ignoring her. After all, my curtain was blocking her view, and I was just trying to focus on my own things. I went back to my room, turned on the TV, and enjoyed the sandwich I had made earlier, along with some snacks. Just as I finished eating, Lorene came back. She opened the door a little and invited me to watch a movie with them in the common area. "Are all three of you still just in your towels?" I asked politely. "You act like that's a big deal. Nothing strange has happened today, Steve. If you had spent time with us, you would have seen that." "We're just friends enjoying time together," she replied. "No thanks. I'd rather not sit on the couches or chairs that you three have been using. They don't look very clean." She didn't like my comment. "Besides, I've been watching Shark Week," I added. "I think I'll stick with this. Shark Week is way more interesting to me." "I'm sorry, Steve. Christopher and I can't watch any more of those shark shows. They nearly ruined scuba diving for us." "I figured as much, Lorene. Enjoy yourselves without me." She went back to join the others, looking disappointed. A minute later, Kirsty burst into my room. "Shark Week? Really? You'd rather watch that alone than hang out with us?" she asked, surprised. That sums it up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I paused this episode at a part where a diver is in trouble. I'm rooting for the shark. My answer seemed to shock her, and she left without saying anything more. They let me be for a while until Christopher came to me around 2 p.m. and said, "Hey man, could you help with the anchor? We've just reached St. Kitts Island, about 2 miles from the main port in Basseterre." As they all gathered on the deck to see the island, I dropped the anchor and then went back to the quiet of my room. 10 minutes later, Lorene came into the room not wearing anything and shut the door behind her. "I'm sorry, Lorene. Could you please close the door and dress a bit?" I asked politely. She stepped towards me without saying anything, leaned against the bathroom door, smiled, and let her body language speak for itself. As she was about to say something, I jumped up from the bed and quickly moved into the common cabin area, still feeling awkward in my makeshift covering. "Why are you being so reserved, Steve? You didn't seem this way before," she said as she followed me. "When you saw Christopher and me together, I saw plenty of interest in your eyes. You weren't pretending." I kept my back to her, trying hard not to let my gaze wander. She could tell I was trying to resist. "You're right, Lorene. I admit it. That's why I'm trying to keep my feelings in check so I don't break my wedding vows. But honestly, I feel uneasy about how I've been treated," I said honestly. "How do you mean?" she asked, surprised. "It's obvious that you three have been working together from the start to draw me into your lifestyle. You've acted like a team without including me, and I don't like being left out or treated that way. Why not be open? Do you think I'm unable to understand adult conversations?" "I'm sorry, Steve. You're right. But I want to say that we never meant to exclude you. We thought that making decisions without you would help ease you into this gradually. Christopher and Kirsty were sure it would work," she explained. "Ease me in?" I repeated. "Well, how's that been going so far?" I asked. "You know it hasn't worked at all," she admitted. "I agree," I said, still not turning to face her. "So you came here to make things better?" "Something like that, but there's more. Kirsty said she's only managed to make you upset, which is not what we wanted. Sending someone in the way I did? Not a good idea. But honestly, I really want to be around you, Steve. You're a smart guy with incredible courage. I admire you a lot. Can we take a break from this tension for a while?" We're getting ready for another scuba trip in just a few minutes. The diving gear is set, and all the air tanks are full and ready. Honestly, I only want you as my dive buddy. What do you think? She asked with hope. I'm sorry, Lorene. I just don't feel like diving today. I love it, but I think I'll sit this one out. Please don't let me hold you back. You all should go and have fun. I could hear her sniffing. I pictured her holding back tears, but I still didn't turn to look at her. If you don't go, then I won't either. I'll be really disappointed to miss this chance, but I mean it. I won't dive unless you're with me. I know they won't like it, but I'll tell them to go ahead without us. Welcome to my world. I haven't been enjoying this trip for a while. You can choose to go or stay. It's clear I don't have a say in any of this. With that, I walked back into my room and closed the door. A few minutes later, Kirsty and Christopher barged in, pleading for Lorene. If you're not going to join in on this trip, then why did you even come? Kirsty asked sharply. Right now, I wish I hadn't come. I don't want to have a private talk with my wife in front of everyone. The three of you can dive without me. If I'm such a downer, I'd ruin the experience for you anyway. Just go and leave me be. Don't you see, Steve? Christopher said. Lorene won't go back in the water without you. She has trusted me since we met, but for this, you're the only one she wants as her dive buddy. It's one thing to ruin your vacation, but now you're ruining hers too. You're her trusted hero, and no one else will do, not even me. So get up on deck and let's dive like we used to, okay? He said with frustration. I couldn't help but laugh a little at that. What's so funny? Christopher shot back angrily. It's quite clear that I have no control over my wife's choices on this trip. I found it funny that you seem to have no say with your wife when it comes to diving either. I'm not responsible for Lorene's happiness or yours. Her choices are just that hers without my input. I suppose that makes us similar, I said with a smirk. He didn't look pleased. I then gently closed the door to my room and listened to the group arguing outside. It eventually quieted down. About 5 minutes later, Kirsty and Lorene opened the door again as Lorene began to speak. Listen, Steve. From what I understand, your main problem is with us being without clothes. Is that right? Yes, that's a big part of it, I admitted. What if we all wore new bathing suits, including one for you? Would you join us then? I don't have a new bathing suit, and my usual one seems to be lost. That's not entirely true, Kirsty chimed in. We all have spare swimsuits, even you. If we all wear these new suits, will you agree to dive with us and let Lorene be your buddy? Now that's the first sensible thing I've heard today. Yes, if we all wear suits, then I'll go, as long as mine isn't too revealing. No problem. It's a regular men's swimsuit. Once you see it, I'm sure you'll like it. Let me see it. They hurried to get the new swimsuits, which had been put away. When I looked at mine, it was just like the style I usually wear. It's a deal, I agreed. Everyone happily put on their new swimsuits, and I was glad they weren't too revealing. I could dive without my dive skin, which was still missing. We all put on our dive gear, checked everything, and talked about our dive plan before entering the water. As we started to descend towards the reef, something odd was happening. Lorene's swimsuit was fading away. When I looked over at Christopher and Kirsty, theirs were disappearing too. When I felt water around my waist, I realized my swimsuit had also vanished. They had tricked us. All three of us had been given swimsuits that dissolved. I quickly tapped Lorene's shoulder and gave her the signal to come up. Since we had been in the water for less than 3 minutes, I didn't worry about a safety stop. I surfaced fast and climbed back onto the boat. Usually, Christopher or I would help the ladies get back on the boat and deal with their gear. I didn't help Lorene this time, nor did I put away my equipment carefully. I just took it off right where I was. Before Lorene reached the back of the boat, I was already in my room putting on a makeshift cover. I tried to see if I could find my clothes in the locked cabin, but I couldn't get in. So I went back to my room, locked the door, and sat down to make sure nobody could come in. A few minutes later, I heard Lorene knock softly. Why did you come up so quickly, Steve? Did you see a shark? She asked playfully. No, Lorene, but I did find 3 tricksters. To be honest, I would have preferred a shark. You left me there struggling to get back on the boat without any help. What happened to kindness? You were part of a plan to trick me. You wanted me to end up in the water in that swimsuit. What happened to being loyal to the person who helped you? It was just a bit of fun, Steve. Can't you see that? Just a silly joke among friends. The same thing happened to all of us, right? Why didn't you stay down in the water and enjoy the dive? Don't ask me to dive again, Lorene, not with any of you. When my gear is dry, I'm packing it away and it won't be used again until we're back home. I can't stop Kirsty from diving with you, but I really mean it. Don't ask me again. Oh, come on, Steve. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. Please be reasonable. If you won't dive, then neither will I. The four of us can talk about it when they finish their dive. In the meantime, can I join you in your room to watch TV? It will help me feel better. They are still diving without us. They both know that I don't want to dive without you. I'm sure Christopher is unhappy with me now. But he left me when I needed help on that last dive. You saved me and I'll never forget. Since it's just us here, I'd feel safer being near you in case anything happens. I know we probably won't have unexpected visitors on our boat, but anything can happen, just like those sharks showed up out of nowhere. I appreciate it, Lorene, but I don't think I'm good company right now. I think I'll keep to myself. Besides, I don't trust any of you very much. She tried hard to get me to talk, but I stayed quiet. About 35 minutes later, Kirsty and Christopher returned, still wet from their dive. Kirsty wanted to come into my room. She quickly joined me and began drying off, leaving the door wide open. It seemed she had towels, but I did not. Why did you come back from the dive so early? As if you don't know. I'm sure you and Christopher had a great time without me. Ignoring my comment, Kirsty started telling me all the details about their dive. I ignored her and turned back to watch a show. Frustrated that I wasn't paying attention to her, she went back to the main area, still without much covering herself and holding a towel. I quietly stood up and closed the bedroom door again to escape the situation. About 30 minutes later, Lorene gently knocked and spoke through the door. It's safe to come out now, Steve. We've decided to go to the island. We're all dressed. Your clothes are in our room. Come on out and we can all go together. It should be a lot of fun. I thought, finally I'm getting a break. I knew I couldn't get my passport before heading to the island, but at least I could find a way to escape once I arrived. I hoped to learn about traveling home later. When I opened the door, all three of them were dressed as they'd promised, and my clothes were waiting in their room. That's what I had been led to believe. As I walked from my room to theirs, everything changed for the worse. What are you doing? What's happening? I asked urgently as Christopher approached me quickly. He grabbed my arm and took me to a corner of the main area next to the kitchen. There, I saw a strong bar attached to the wall that was used for support during rough seas. I noticed a pair of handcuffs connected to it. One was fastened to the bar while the other hung open. Christopher moved me next to the bar and held my arm. Kirsty then secured the open handcuff around my wrist. I felt trapped. I turned to face the wall. You'll be like this for a while, Steve, so you might as well get used to it, Christopher said. Please don't be upset, Kirsty said kindly. This is for your own good. We're going to the island just as we said, but we needed to make sure you wouldn't leave before our trip ended. We also can't leave you alone on the boat because you might try to swim to the island. This simple restraint is just to ensure you stay safe until we return. I believe you'll change your mind about everything once you have some time to think, she reassured me. What you're doing is not right. You're all liars. How can you do this, Kirsty? I retorted. In a moment of anger, she unexpectedly slapped my face. Thank you for showing how much you care, I said bitterly. Your actions are hurting any love I once had. She began to cry at my harsh words, which surprised me. I had never spoken to her like that before. Christopher added, Don't let his words affect you, Kirsty. He'll come around, I promise. He may seem confident now, but I assure you, we'll persuade him to see things our way eventually. Maybe I should stay with him and try to help him calm down, Kirsty suggested. It's a good idea, Kirsty, but he won't appreciate it. He's quite upset right now. If anyone stays with him, he'll just lash out at them. He needs some time alone to realize that fighting back won't work. He'll be much easier to deal with when we come back in a few hours, I promise, Christopher said. Kirsty nodded, accepting his decision. I'm sorry for hitting you, Steve. Can I kiss it better before we go? She asked. I don't want anything from you, I replied, feeling frustrated. Kirsty's eyes filled with tears at my harsh words. Lorene then asked, Are you sure he'll be okay? He won't be in any danger while we're gone? Christopher reassured her. No, he might struggle a little, but once he sees it's pointless, he'll stop. That bar is really strong. There's no way he could break free from it. Lorene inquired, Can he at least have a chair to sit on instead of the floor with his arm up? Sure. Just move that chair over next to him. He can use his free arm to adjust it. I stayed still, facing away from them to maintain some dignity. They all said goodbye and tried to get me to respond before they left. But I stayed silent. I heard the boat's motor start up and take them away, leaving me feeling vulnerable. I pulled the chair close to the wall to sit more comfortably and think about my situation. The grab bar was just beyond my reach, and there were no helpful objects around. A cabinet nearby only had paper towels in it, which wouldn't help me at all. Christopher had made sure there was nothing useful within reach. Feeling determined, I spit on my wrist and struggled against the metal restraint, but it wouldn't budge. After some time, I realized I needed to use the bathroom. I stood up and, without a second thought, relieved myself on the fancy carpet of the multi-million-dollar boat. After that, I sat back down and tugged at the restraint repeatedly. They returned 3.5 hours later, excited to be back, but their mood changed quickly when they saw the mess. Lorene screamed when she first noticed me. "Is he going to be okay?" she asked hurriedly. "No. He made a mess and his wrist will need some care, but he'll be fine," Christopher replied. "Steve, why did you fight so hard to get free when you knew it wouldn't work?" Then he stepped into it barefoot. "Did you make a mess on my carpet too? What kind of person are you?" Christopher shouted in frustration. "Don't raise your voice at him," Kirsty said firmly. "You used the bathroom twice while we were gone. What did you expect him to do? He had no other choice. I'll take care of it," she declared. "He's my husband after all. It's going to take some strong cleaner to get rid of that mess." "I'll help with that," Christopher said as he released me. "Lorene, you clean up his mess. Kirsty is a nurse, so she can take care of his wounds. I'll get the first aid kit. It should have what you need," he added. They were upset that I had made a mess due to my injury. I sat there using paper towels for some cover while Kirsty got ready to help me. "No," I said firmly. "I can take care of myself, thank you." "Don't be silly. I'm a nurse, and I feel responsible. Let me treat your wounds," she insisted. "Either give me some supplies to do it myself or I'll manage on my own. Just like you respect your body, I respect mine, and I don't want you to touch me." My refusal seemed to hurt her. I could see her guilt, and her eyes glistened with tears since she was the one who tightened the handcuffs around my wrist earlier. No one acknowledged my attempt to be modest. As Christopher and Lorene cleaned up my mess and I worked on my wounds, Kirsty seemed more cheerful. "I have some things to show you," she said excitedly as she let go of her clothes. "Look, I had a wax. Isn't it smooth? What do you think? Why don't you show it to someone else? It's not for me. I don't like it." "What? Christopher thought you'd like it." "Well, he's wrong. I don't—" She looked upset by my response. Suddenly, she perked up again and turned, showing off a tattoo on her back. It had our initials on it, just like Lorene's tattoo. "Isn't it cute? I really like it. What do you think?" "I don't like tattoos, Kirsty, and you know that. Please just give me some space. I don't want to see you like this. I'm sure someone else appreciates it." "He's not my boyfriend. I wish you'd stop saying that." Kirsty, sounding frustrated, said, "Since you don't want to see me anymore, maybe I won't let you be close to me tonight." I replied calmly, "That's fine. I was worried I'd have to turn you down again, so this works out." Angrily, she stomped away into the kitchen area. After I finished taking care of my wrist, I went to our room. I found that most of my things were missing: no curtains, no extra clothes, and even my knife was gone. Feeling upset, I tried to push the bed to block the door, but it wouldn't move. It was bolted to the floor, likely for safety during rough weather. Feeling hurt and angry, I locked the door, moved a chair in front of it, and sat down, determined to have some space. Soon, Kirsty came back, banging on the door and calling out after realizing it was locked. I didn't respond. Eventually, she had Lorene unlock the door from the other side, and they both tried to come in. "What's going on, Steve? Why can't we get in?" Lorene asked. "I'm blocking the door. There are plenty of other rooms for you to use tonight. I don't want company. Please, just leave me alone." Kirsty tried to sound apologetic. "I know you're upset, honey. I'm really sorry. Let me in, and I promise I'll make it up to you. If you come in here, you'll regret it. Just stay out, both of you. Let's avoid making things worse." "How are we supposed to make up if you won't let me in?" Kirsty pleaded. "I want to make tonight special. I'm really sorry for everything, and I want to fix it." "Stick to your word, Kirsty. You said you wouldn't come near me tonight. I'm counting on you to keep that promise." She started sobbing behind the door. "Why are you ruining everything for me?" she cried. I replied quietly, "The same way you ruined everything for me." Eventually, they gave up trying to reach me, and I was left alone. About half an hour later, I heard the sound of fireworks outside. When I looked out of the window, I saw bright flashes of light and explosions in the distance. It reminded me that it was the 4th of July, a day to celebrate independence. I thought maybe this was a way to lure me out of the room, but I stayed put. Tired and emotionally drained, I moved to the bed and fell asleep with the TV still on. Day 5. Sometime in the early morning, just before sunrise, I was unexpectedly woken up. I felt something warm nearby and realized I was lying on my side, facing Kirsty. Apparently, sometime during the night, Kirsty had quietly slipped into bed beside me. When I opened my eyes just slightly, I realized she had moved down the bed and was trying to get close to me in an unexpected way. She hadn't touched me anywhere else, probably trying not to wake me too suddenly. It took me a moment to fully grasp what was happening. I was confused at first, as this wasn't something she had ever done before. Then it hit me she was likely trying to make up for her recent behavior by being affectionate in a way she thought would get me to forgive her. Still upset by everything that had happened, I decided I needed to stop her, but I wanted to avoid a confrontation. An idea came to mind. I pretended to stay asleep, keeping my eyes closed so she wouldn't know I was aware. Then I did something I'd never done before. With full control and pretending I was still asleep, I allowed my bladder to release, hoping the situation would put an end to her actions. The next thing I heard was her coughing loudly, startled by what had happened. She jumped up, coughing and trying to clear her mouth. "Why would you do that, Steve? I was trying to be nice, and you did that!" she yelled, clearly upset. I mumbled, pretending to wake up slowly. "What? I'm sorry, I was asleep. I didn't know you were there. I must have just reacted without realizing." Still coughing and clearly disgusted, she rushed to the bathroom to rinse her mouth and brush her teeth. I could barely contain my laughter, but kept up the act, making her believe it was just an innocent mistake. After a moment, she gave me a sideways glance, clearly still angry, but accepting my explanation. Without saying anything else, she left the room, clearly no longer interested in continuing her efforts. I took the chance to head to the shower and clean up, but when I finished, I realized there were no towels to dry off with. I thought about heading outside to let the sun dry me off, but got interrupted. To my surprise, Christopher and the two women walked into the room, wine glasses in hand. It was clear their arrival was timed, as if they had been keeping an eye on me. Startled, I quickly sat on the bed and covered myself with my hands, feeling uncomfortable with their unexpected visit. Christopher stood by the door as if guarding it, while Lorene and Kirsty moved closer, unbothered by the situation. "For goodness sake, Steve," one of them said. "Why are you still trying to hide from us?" "You need to get with the program," Kirsty said sharply. Christopher, trying to lighten the mood, joked, "Want me to tie him to the bed so he can't hide anything?" Both women chuckled at the idea. I wasn't amused. "Go ahead, Christopher," I challenged. "But know this, if I get loose, I'll cut a piece of your precious sails to cover myself, leaving a big hole. Try me," I said angrily. Christopher sighed. "Why are you being so difficult, man? We're your friends and we care about you. We miss spending time with you. Today could be a turning point. Right, girls?" Lorene spoke up. "That's right, Steve. Today is special. We're calling it Touchy-Feely Day. We're all going to be relaxed and open, and we encourage some harmless physical contact. You can look at me as much as you want, and you're allowed to touch me in non-sexual ways just to explore and be playful. In return, I'll do the same with you. No intimate activities like sex, just simple, friendly touches. We can enjoy each other's company without crossing any boundaries." I raised an eyebrow. "So that's the plan, huh? And what if I don't want to touch you or have you touch me?" Lorene smiled, trying to sound persuasive. "Come on, Steve. You're human like the rest of us. This is just a chance to expand your comfort zone a little." "My comfort zone is just fine where it is," I said firmly. "Lorene, I will never intentionally touch you in that way. And if you touch me, I will stop you. Am I supposed to accept that Christopher and Kirsty will be doing the same thing?" "Of course," Lorene replied. "It's just a fun way to bond and get to know each other better. It wouldn't be fair if only we were participating. Why not join in and just enjoy the moment? I kept my eyes on hers the whole time, not glancing away. Kirsty, is this really what you want? To let another man touch you? Don't you see where this is heading? I'm completely against this. If you go through with it, it will destroy our marriage. Is that what you want? Why did you even bring me on this trip? Why didn't you just go without me and let me relax at home with Jenna and the kids? You're making it sound worse than it is. We're just trying new things. Stop being so dramatic, honey. This isn't a big deal. As Lorene said, there will be no intimacy. We'll just be a bit playful. You can still touch me however you want. That hasn't changed. Don't worry. This won't affect our marriage. You seem a bit jealous of Christopher. I understand why, since he is quite a good-looking man, and yes, I've enjoyed looking at him too. But at the end of the day, I'm all yours. You've turned me away the last 2 nights, and I'm disappointed in you for that. If that's how you really feel, then we have nothing more to discuss. I've told you how I feel. You've shared your plans to be with another man, and I can't agree to that. May I leave this room and go up on deck to dry off? It seems our hosts forgot the towels. No one is cheating, Steve. We've been completely honest with you. If you don't join in, it's unfair to Lorene, don't you think? Christopher is already close to her. She wants to have fun with you, too. The only man she's seen without clothes this week is her husband. You've been distant and leaving her out. If you had joined in a little, none of this would have happened. Don't you see? As I said, we have nothing more to discuss. Once again, may I leave this room and go up on deck to get dry? Fine, be stubborn. Go ahead and not join in. Let him pass, Christopher. I'm sorry, Lorene. He just needs more time to understand. I believe he'll come around. Christopher opened the door and let me go outside. I felt a small sense of success for resisting their plans. It seemed like I might be losing Kirsty. I took a roll of paper towels and wrapped it around my waist for modesty, walked up on deck to get some fresh air, and dried off as I walked. About 15 minutes later, the 3 of them came outside and went to the sunning area at the front of the boat. I stood back and couldn't hear them, but I could see they were laughing and having a good time. Slowly, I made my way closer to them without being noticed, but I was very unhappy with what I saw. Christopher was putting lotion on Kirsty and was getting very close to her. They both looked like they were enjoying themselves. I stepped into the room to see if Kirsty would show any signs of shame. I was disappointed to see her with her eyes closed, acting like she didn't notice me. It seemed like she enjoyed the fact that I was watching her with another man. Lorene quickly asked me to join in too. I walked away feeling upset. What they didn't know was that I came back with my phone recording. I couldn't browse the internet, but I could still film. I wanted to capture what I thought was very inappropriate behavior, maybe even betrayal. When I returned, Christopher and my wife were already caught up in their actions. Lorene was watching with interest. Christopher was close to Kirsty, and it looked like they were very involved. Their sounds made me uneasy. He seemed to be giving her a lot more than I would ever do. I made my presence known. Sorry to interrupt, Kirsty, I said with a sarcastic tone as I continued to record. Looks like you found a new way to get some sun. She looked startled, realizing I had seen everything. Before she could respond, Lorene spoke up. Nothing is happening that you weren't warned about, Steve, she said, then opened her legs and asked, Please join us. I would love for you to do the same with me. I wouldn't touch you, Lorene. You all disgust me. I never thought my wife would act like this with another man. If you all know what's good for you, you'll leave me alone. Lorene and Kirsty looked shocked by my anger. He recorded us, darn it. I told you he might do that. What will you do with that recording? Christopher asked. I replied, dripping with sarcasm. I was thinking of going back to my room and enjoying it. I lied. The truth was I wanted it as proof for our divorce, but I didn't want to cause more trouble by saying that. I wasn't sure they believed me anyway. It was time to end this situation. So I was right. He does have some strange interests after all. This is interesting, Christopher said. This vacation is ruined for me. I don't want to stay here with any of you, especially with the person I thought I knew. I really want to go home right now. Christopher, could you please adjust the settings to take us back to Tampa Bay in Florida immediately? Kirsty looked surprised by my request but didn't say anything, unsure how to calm the situation without making me more upset. Lorene chimed in, Are you sure you wouldn't let me talk to you for a bit, Steve? Just a few minutes alone and I think you might change your mind. I didn't even glance at her or respond. My silence spoke volumes to them. "I'm sorry you feel this way, Steve," Christopher said with a smirk. "We'll think it over and let you know, but no promises," he added. "I know you three want to keep going with the trip, and that's fine. Enjoy your vacation for as long as you want without me. Just drop me off at the island pier and I can make my own way home. You won't have to deal with my bad mood anymore." They understood I was serious. "Give us a few minutes to discuss this," he repeated, "and we'll get back to you." Then I said, "I'm going to get some fruit for breakfast and visit the restroom while you all figure out how to get me off this boat." I was surprised that none of them commented on my need to leave. I thought Kirsty would try to argue with me. This was unusual for her. Had they already planned for my request? 30 minutes later, Kirsty came to the cabin. "Why are you being so rude to our kind hosts? Can't you spend any time with us? For the same reason you can't spend time alone with me." "That's not true. I don't want to ignore our hosts." "Of course. It's better to ignore me than them, I see. As I've said before, this is the best vacation of our lives. We may never get another chance like this. Why can't you just relax and be more open? Lorene thinks you find her unattractive since you keep turning her down." "Kirsty, I don't need or want anyone else in my life. It hurts that you feel differently." "It's not like that, Steve. Think of it as me wanting something I can't have. Sometimes I can allow myself a little treat." "I can't believe you're doing this, Kirsty." "I'm not doing this against you, Steve. I'm doing it for you." "That's hard to believe. It feels like you three are all the same and I stand out. I wish I had known this side of you before. Maybe I would have made different choices. This may be the best vacation of your life, but it feels like a nightmare for me. Out of the four of us, only 3 are enjoying themselves, and I'm not one of them. Once we get this fancy prison back home, I swear I will never get on it again." "You can't mean that, Steve. These are our closest friends, and they are sharing everything with us, including their ideas." "And that's the issue. You've gone further with Christopher than I ever wanted. They seem to have influenced you. I just want to go home. I can't stand it here." "Your jealousy is not a good look, Steve. You're making it awkward for me in front of our closest friends." "I have a simple idea, Kirsty. Just drop me off at the pier on the island, and you three can enjoy yourselves without me getting in the way." "That's one of the things I wanted to discuss with you. We've talked about your request. We will sail toward Montserrat. Christopher has some business there. After that, he said he'd be happy to take us back home. The Belvederes are upset that you're unhappy and don't want to join in our fun. If you still want to leave, we can head home after his business. Can you wait a couple more days before we go back to Tampa?" "I suppose I don't have much choice, do I? I guess I can manage another day or two, but I'm worried this might hurt our marriage." She laughed. "That's not realistic, Steve. No 2 people are better suited for each other than you and me. We both know that. There's no need to be so dramatic. Like I said, we'll turn around and head home once he finishes his business, if that's what you still want. Until then, can you please try to be a little less difficult?" I didn't answer, and she walked back to the deck looking upset, leaving me alone in the room. A few minutes later, I spotted a drone outside my window. They were probably trying to see what I was doing in my room. I could imagine they were hoping I was really upset over the video I made of Kirsty and Christopher. I chuckled at that thought, closed the curtains, and turned on the TV for a bit, though I couldn't really focus since the day had been so emotional for me. I listened carefully until the quiet I had hoped for finally came. I peeked out onto the deck and saw the 3 of them deep in conversation, likely talking about me. Not wanting to waste any time, I rushed into the engine room and searched through the tool drawers. I eventually found what I needed, a hacksaw. I wrapped it in some paper towels from the engine room and took it with me to the common area. I held the item tightly against my chest, making sure it blended in with the paper towels I had wrapped around myself. I wanted to be careful that no one would spot me. I quickly hid the saw at the back of the paper towel cabinet, under some unused rolls. Then I took a fresh roll to my room, just in case anyone saw me. This would give me a reason for being in the cabinet if someone asked. I concealed the saw to protect myself in case I was ever restrained again. I had no idea what might happen next, but I just wanted this stressful situation to end. A quick check showed that the 3 people were still talking and didn't notice anything. I returned to my room and watched a true crime show on TV. After the show ended, I quietly looked around the common area. Not seeing anyone, I carefully made my way up to the deck, unsure of what I would find. Just before reaching the top of the stairs, I noticed Christopher leaning against the handrail, his back to me. He was with my wife, who was helping him. It hurt me to see this. At that moment, Lorene appeared behind me, curious about what I was watching. She smiled and whispered, "Isn't that a sweet scene? I've never helped him like that before." I replied sharply, "I taught her that. She used to do it for me." I say used to because she will never do that for me again. To me, that is something a wife does only for her husband. Seeing her do that for him excludes me forever. "Don't be so dramatic about something innocent, Steve. You always make a big deal out of everything," she said. "If you didn't want to see this, why did you come up here?" I wanted to ask him why my phone can't access the internet anymore. I think I know the answer, but I wanted to hear it for sure. "I'm sorry, Steve. We agreed that if you recorded anything personal on your phone, the passcode would be changed to protect everyone's privacy. It's nothing personal, it's just a safety measure until we are sure you're with us." "I understand. Thank you for being honest," I said. Lorene took my hands and gently pulled them toward her. "Steve, please touch me," Kirsty said softly. "You don't know what you're missing. Let me show you how much you mean to me." I pulled my hands away from hers, turned, and left the room without saying a word. I returned to my own space and focused on the TV, trying to block everything out. I could feel the boat moving again, and I hoped we were finally on our way to Montserrat, where Christopher had some business to take care of before we could head home. That was the plan, or so I thought. Not long after, my hopes were shattered when Lorene entered the room and sat beside me. She tried to touch me, but I immediately grabbed her wrist and pushed her hand away. "Come on, Steve," she said, smiling. "I know you want this as much as I do. You've been looking at me like that all this time. Just relax and I'll take care of everything." "Leave. Now, Lorene, I want nothing to do with you or anyone else. Just leave me alone." She didn't take no for an answer. "We can't do that, Steve! Christopher!" she called. Christopher had clearly been listening outside because he entered the room quickly. Without a word, he grabbed me and dragged me out into the main area. Though I resisted, he was much stronger and soon had me seated in a large wooden chair. He forced my arms behind the chair where Kirsty took handcuffs and secured my wrists tightly to the back supports. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted. "I've never hurt any of you. I just wanted to be left alone. Christopher, go be with my wife if that's what you want, but leave me out of this." They ignored me. Lorene took control again. "Now his legs," she instructed. Christopher, confident I couldn't fight back, tied my ankles to the rear legs of the chair, spreading my legs uncomfortably wide. I couldn't move. My hands were locked behind me, my legs were bound, and I was stuck in this humiliating position. I was furious, trapped in a way I never imagined, and it felt like I had lost all control. Lorene removed the paper towel I had used to cover myself, leaving me completely exposed. The anger inside me boiled, but I remained silent, knowing that nothing I could say would stop what was happening. The three of them stared at me with a strange sense of curiosity, as if they had finally gotten a glimpse of something they had been chasing. They were used to seeing each other in this state, but it seemed like seeing me so exposed was a novelty for them. Lorene broke the silence. "Christopher, stay out of sight behind him," she instructed. "We don't need any distractions. You're only here for security in case he tries something. Right now, he's in no position to resist." As she spoke, Lorene began to gently touch my legs and thighs, occasionally brushing against me with her fingertips. Despite her efforts, she seemed disappointed that I wasn't reacting the way she had expected. She signaled to Kirsty, who handed her a pair of scissors. Without hesitation, Lorene began trimming my body hair. Kirsty seemed oddly intrigued, watching closely. I objected, but they just laughed, knowing I couldn't stop them. Lorene then applied shaving cream and spread it around. Kirsty handed her a razor and bowl of warm water. Together, they began to shave me, making sure no hair remained. Lorene made a light-hearted comment, but I remained silent, my anger only growing. When they finished, Lorene seemed satisfied, noting that I was now prepared for whatever they had planned next. She then tried to stimulate a response, but nothing happened. Kirsty attempted to help by kissing my neck, something that might have worked in other circumstances. but I remained unresponsive. Lorene increased her efforts, doing everything she could think of, but still, nothing changed. Frustrated, Lorene asked, "Why isn't anything happening, Steve? I know you were reacting the other night when you watched us." I stayed quiet and simply gave a small smile. Lorene must have noticed something in my expression and turned to Kirsty. "It might be you, Kirsty. I think he's mentally blocking this because of you. Step back and let me handle it alone." Kirsty reluctantly backed away, and Lorene continued her attempts, but I remained unmoved. Lorene turned her attention to me, continuing to speak softly but confidently. "Steve, I'm going to give you an experience you've never had before. I know you're surprised, but let me tell you, I'm really good at what I do. You won't be able to stop thinking about it. You won't be able to walk away now, and soon enough you'll be in my hands, helpless to resist." I interrupted her, feeling confused. "But why, Lorene? You and Kirsty have both said your husband is superior to me in every way. Why would you want to do this with me?" Lorene glanced over at Christopher, who stood quietly behind me as if seeking permission. After a pause, she turned back to me. "It's true," she said. "In most ways, Christopher is everything anyone could ask for. But there's one area where things are different: fertility. When he was a teenager, he and some friends did something really foolish. They were trying to copy something they saw in a movie, kicking each other in the groin. Christopher ended up with a serious condition called testicular torsion. He didn't tell his parents until the pain was unbearable, and by then it was too late. He lost both of his testicles during surgery." Lorene continued, her tone steady. "He's been on hormone therapy ever since to make sure his body developed normally, and later, he had prosthetics put in so he would look normal. That's why he's strong and healthy today. He became dedicated to building his body, using therapy and workouts to get where he is now. He's successful and can have anything he wants, and I'm lucky to be with him. He's given me everything except one thing." The room grew quiet as Lorene paused, leaving the rest of her words hanging in the air. "He cannot have a child with me, so he is helping me have one through you. Over the years, we have met many people, but none have caught my attention like you. Kirsty has talked a lot about your good qualities while at the hospital. Your children are wonderful, and I believe that is mostly because of your good traits, which they seem to have inherited. To me, you are the perfect person to help me have children. Yes, I want more than one." The three of us talked about how to bring up the idea of you helping me become a mother. Kirsty did not like any of the ideas we came up with. She knows you well and guessed that you would not agree. That is when we thought of this plan to convince you to help. We have been trying to show you that it's okay to act on your natural feelings. You have impressive self-control, which has made things difficult. But that quality will also benefit my children because of your contribution. We want this to be a long-lasting arrangement. Both Christopher and I would love for you to be involved in our children's lives in any way you want. Our children will have everything they need. But we are not dishonest, Steve. Christopher provides for everything I need, and what I want now is you. Kirsty fully supports our plan. Once we come together for the first time, Christopher will add $1 million to your account. When you help me become pregnant, another $1 million will be added, and once I have the baby, a third $1 million will come your way for every child you help me have. So this is a good deal for everyone. Christopher is happy because he's helping me. I'm happy because I can achieve my dream of being a mother. You are happy because you can have a close relationship with me, while also making a meaningful contribution, and your family benefits financially too. For the first time in my life, I was speechless. Their unexpected plan was out in the open while I felt overwhelmed. Kirsty did not deny anything Lorene was saying. The betrayal from the couple we once trusted was deeply hurtful. Many thoughts raced through my mind, including how to escape this situation I found myself in. Some clear ideas started to form amidst the confusion. We can't choose what happens to us, only how we react to it. You've put me at a big disadvantage by catching me off guard with your surprising news. I have a few questions, if that's okay. Of course, Steve. Christopher has said I can answer anything you want. My first question is for Kirsty. Is what Lorene said true? Did you agree to this plan with the Belvederes that involves me? I'm really sorry, Steve. Please don't be angry. It's true. Think about it. $3 million for each child. What if she wants 3 kids with you? That's $9 million. No one can say no to that kind of money, not even you. That's why we thought it best to tell you like this so you can't avoid the truth. You know the whole plan now. And you have to admit, Lorene is a wonderful partner to swap with. And does that mean you will also be Christopher's partner as part of this arrangement? Lorene answered for her. Of course, Steve. It wouldn't be fair for you and me to share a bed if they can't experience the same. They haven't been together yet, but starting today, you're going to be very involved with me every day until the end of the month. While we're exclusive, it's only fair for Christopher and Kirsty to be together as well. They can enjoy each other's company freely without any worries. I understand, I said, trying to control my anger. But you've got your plans wrong, Lorene. I'll be leaving you three very soon. Even if I didn't, this was only meant to be a 2-week trip, not a month. That's not entirely true, Kirsty interrupted. I spoke to your coworker, Ross Gertzky, before we left for this trip. I reminded him how you helped him out before, and he agreed to cover for you for the entire month of July, 4 full weeks. Isn't that a nice surprise? You don't realize what you've done, do you? Their last child was born with a serious health issue that needed very expensive surgery that insurance wouldn't pay for. They sold many of their things and took out a second mortgage to afford it. They are struggling to get by, and now you've added to his burden. He has no vacation days left. He'll have to work 2 weeks without pay because of you. You've put me in a terrible position with my colleagues. And to top it off, what Lorene described, along with your confirmation, makes this situation unfair to us all. You'll get paid well for being with her, and for being with another man who isn't your husband. You'll have a lot of money, but it doesn't change what this is. I won't be part of it. Our marriage is over, and as far as I'm concerned, you're free to do whatever you want. But you'll never touch me again. You can keep every penny they give you. I don't want any of it, I said coldly. The three of them burst into laughter, their amusement filling the room. What's so funny? I asked, feeling confused. Lorene smiled at me. You are, Steve? You think you have a choice in any of this? You're not going to divorce anyone, and even if you wanted to, Christopher wouldn't allow it. But he doesn't have to step in. Everything will happen exactly as I said it would. You'll beg me, Steve, because I know exactly how to get you there. I'm that good. And just like in Star Trek, resistance is futile. You won't be able to stop me, I fired back, trying to stay strong. You think I'll beg you? You're not that lucky. Ignoring my defiance, Lorene glanced over my shoulder at Christopher and Kirsty. Stay quiet, both of you. I don't want any distractions. Kirsty, watch carefully. I'm about to show you how it's done. Her confidence was infuriating, but I knew I had to stay focused. I thought about Kirsty's betrayal to fuel my anger and resolve. But the situation wasn't looking good. I was trapped, unable to move, completely exposed and vulnerable in front of her. I couldn't fight back physically, and I tried my best to hide my frustration. Lorene didn't say anything more. She just smiled at me and then began her next move. I felt my body reacting despite my determination to resist. She was skilled, and my body started betraying my mind. As much as I didn't want to, I felt the unwanted sensations building. I fought to keep control, but my chances of holding out were slipping. As Lorene continued her efforts, I could feel my body reacting involuntarily. She was clearly skilled, and her actions were smooth and practiced. I couldn't help but notice the difference compared to past experiences, and it was unsettling how she seemed to be in complete control. Despite my best attempts to focus elsewhere, my body betrayed me, reacting to the situation against my will. Lorene seemed pleased with the results, and she looked up at me, a confident smile on her face. I told you I'd get you to this point, Steve, she said, her tone calm but triumphant. Now I'm going to keep you on edge, bringing you close but never letting you finish, over and over again. You won't be able to stop it, and eventually you'll be begging for more. She continued her actions, clearly enjoying the control she had over me. I felt trapped, unsure of what to do. Lorene had made it clear that she had the upper hand, and physically, there wasn't much I could do to stop her. Then, an idea came to me. I realized that Lorene prided herself on her appearance and how much control she could exert over others through her looks and actions. If I couldn't resist her physically, maybe I could break her focus in another way. I started laughing loudly and uncontrollably. The sudden sound took her by surprise. She stopped and looked up at me, confused. What are you laughing at, Steve? She asked, clearly caught off guard. Still laughing, I replied, I just thought of something funny, that's all. Her surprise gave me a brief moment to regain some control over the situation, and for the first time I felt like I had a small victory, even if it was just a distraction. Once I started laughing, I couldn't stop. Lorene paused and looked at me, clearly confused. "What's so funny?" she asked, still trying to maintain control. I smirked and replied, "I just find it hilarious that you think you're so clever." She chuckled, trying to brush it off. "Clever? Steve? I remember you telling me just the other day that you found me too attractive to be around because you couldn't control yourself." I laughed again, louder this time. "And you actually believed that? Wow, you're more gullible than I thought." Her smile faltered. "Why would you say that? You seemed pretty sincere." "Because I was just saying what I thought you wanted to hear," I said, shrugging. "You're the host, and Kirsty told me to be polite and not cause any issues. I was just being nice." "You're lying. I never got that vibe from you," she insisted, clearly unsure now. "That's because I was just trying not to upset you. I was playing along. I didn't want to rock the boat." Lorene's expression shifted slightly, but she still tried to keep her composure. "I don't believe you. I've always been told I'm beautiful." I seized the moment, sensing her vulnerability. "Beautiful? Please. Compared to Kirsty, you're twice her size. She's fit, perfectly proportioned, and here you are trying to compete with her. Your looks aren't even in the same league." Lorene's eyes began to well up with tears. I knew I had hit a sensitive spot. "How could you say such things?" she whispered, her confidence crumbling. "Christopher always tells me I'm beautiful in his eyes." "Of course he does," I said coldly. "But have you noticed how interested he is in Kirsty? He's probably thrilled at the chance to be with someone who's healthy and fit, not someone who's struggling to keep up." At this, Lorene finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Kirsty, who had been silent until now, couldn't hold back any longer. "Don't listen to him, Lorene," she said softly. "He's just trying to hurt you with his mean words. Don't you see? It's just a trick to stop you from helping him." Lorene stopped crying as she thought about what Kirsty had said. Because of that, she tried even harder to win me over. She was very determined to get me to give in. I felt a strange sensation as she focused all her efforts on me. I knew that if she kept going, I would have to give in, so I decided to take action. First, I gathered a big spit in my mouth and forcefully spat it at her. Then I shouted loudly, "Get off me! I regret saving you from those sharks. I wish I had let them take you away so you wouldn't be making such a fool of yourself and treating me like this." Lorene was shocked to be treated this way and ran away crying, heading up to the deck to escape my harsh words. Kirsty was angry. "You had to spoil everything, didn't you?" She rushed after Lorene to comfort her. Fueled by anger, Christopher came at me. "I'm going to teach you a lesson about how to treat my wife." He then hit me hard, and the pain took my breath away. I couldn't bend over because of how I was tied up, so I just groaned loudly, which seemed to please him. After a minute of trying to get my breath back, I said cleverly, "Thank you, Christopher. You just helped me. Because of you, now neither of the girls can get to me today, and I owe it to you. And think about this. What if you just made it impossible for me to have children, just like you? Wouldn't that be ironic?" I laughed. Realizing he had been outsmarted, Christopher unlocked my handcuffs and took them away, leaving me alone to untie my legs. Though it hurt, I had turned the situation around. The three of them talked on the deck, leaving me alone below. I grabbed some paper towels and wrapped them around myself for modesty again. I knew they could easily take them away, but I would use as many as I needed. Eventually, Kirsty came down to talk to me. I wondered what their new plan would be since the last one had failed. "I'm sorry, Steve, for how things got out of hand earlier. I'm sorry to say what I did to you both." She is still upset. "Christopher admitted that he hurt you out of anger, but later saw it was a mistake. He said you were too clever for him and Lorene, and that you would probably take some time to recover from what he did." I had nothing to say, so I just kept watching TV. She didn't seem to notice I wasn't talking. "It's lunchtime, Steve. What can I make for you?" "I'd be happy to prepare something you like," she said in a friendly tone. "I don't want you to prepare anything for me. I saw things I really didn't want to see. Please don't offer again. I'm not interested anymore." "That's silly. I've washed my hands since then. They're clean now. I would never do that to you." "You surprised me with what you did. I'm planning to end our marriage as soon as I can. Not a chance. Didn't you hear what Lorene said? Christopher wouldn't let that happen. I don't want to hear you talk like that, Steve. You've stirred things up today in a way that no one saw coming. Christopher and I haven't gotten intimate, and we all know nothing has happened between you and Lorene. I promise that I won't be close with him until you are close with her. Deal? I didn't respond. My silence said a lot. She left, upset that I hadn't changed my mind. I heated a can of soup for lunch, cleaned up, and went back to my room for some peace. I heard laughter from the three of them in the other room. Then Kirsty burst into my room, catching their playful mood. We made enough lunch for you, honey. Come join us and let's get back to how things were. What do you think? I kept ignoring her. A few minutes later, she came in with a plate of food, smiled, and set it on the bed next to me. After she went back out, I picked up the food, threw it in the trash, and placed the plate on the counter by the sink. They stared at me in surprise as I quietly closed my door. I heard them cleaning up after their meal, and soon all three of them came into my room. Lorene spoke up for the group. Hey everyone! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the exciting stories we have coming up. What do you think about the characters in this story? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.